2 other customers, which means the staff outnumber us by 1. I'm pretty sure that if I could get a message to them, we could revolt and take over, and just take anything we want from behind the bar. We'd have to get the jump on them though. We'd have to like wait till one of them goes to like make a cappuccino or something, and then use the flatware. Nice. Yes, I will have a guest today. Seriously? So that's hilarious. I just use euros, I know. The bakery Kimuraya. Yeah, I think I... Kimuraya. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. If you don't know what neighborhood it's in. If it's in Hiro, then I think I know it. Well, they sell anpan pretty much everywhere in this country. It's hard to find an area where you're not within 10 meters of a place that sells anpan, because every convenience store sells it. And in Tokyo, there's a convenience store like every 3 or 4 blocks. Anpan is, well, pan is a Japanese word for bread, loosely, as it is in Portuguese and many other classical European languages. And an is basically, there's a lot of different variations, but an is basically beans. Beans with sugar that are then kind of stewed into like it looks like red beans and rice, but sweet. Sweet, mushy, pasty almost beans. Uncle. And actually the restaurant, I'm in a cafe, and it's a cafe in Orange Theater, so their menu absolutely, it's mostly just drinks here, like, because this is like a coffee, smoke cigarettes, and take up space kind of place. They've got like 2 things on the menu food wise: curry, or like the little sandwich set. I will show you. So I don't come here for the food, but because it's winter, and the Japanese are very seasonal people, they have basically, I think this would be Yoshiroko. Yeah. It's a kind of soup. I'll pop that photo again. Basically, it's a kind of soup made from the same beans as anko. It's not an egg, actually. It's a chestnut. It's a chestnut. You would expect an egg, though. In most cases, that's got to be an egg, but no, that's actually kuri, or chestnut. Does anyone actually out there know how to say chestnut and squirrel in Japanese? Yes, obviously. Kuri is chestnut, and reese is squirrel, and to means and, so joining, like conjunction. So chestnut and squirrel in Japanese would of course be kuri to risu. and they're very cute and furry, and I think most people like them. The kuritoris. Actually, that's a little junk. No, actually, that's like a lot of people like to do that to newbies in Japan. Get them to say that out loud. It's a very, very, very old, stupid gaijin joke. Actually, I don't think it's a guy. It might have been Japanese people who came up who do that originally to people who don't speak Japanese. I can just imagine. Which is also funny because actually the word for clitoris in Japanese is clitoris. There's no like, well, not in common use anyway. There's no Japanese like kanji word for it. They use the katakana, but katakana is like for foreign things, like curry or United States of America. So I'm kind of wondering, like, did they not have them before foreigners arrived in Japan? Like, I'm just pointing out. Well, I've already had my morning coffee and a large cola, so I'm well into my morning. I haven't tried either of the new McDonald's offerings. There's the Texas burger, which I think is just wrapping up its run. Now the New York burger. I don't see how either of them could be remotely similar to Texas or New York. Like, I have no idea. I'm waiting for the Delaware burger and the Rhode Island burger, and maybe it's another exciting place they could name a burger after. The thing is, there's definitely going to be another, because it's done very well. And actually, I just read this morning through David Ardo's site, which I try not to read that site, but I end up doing it. Apparently, they're closing something like 400 McDonald's in Japan. Rather, McDonald's is not closing it. A 50% owner affiliate. There'll still be tons of McDonald's in Japan, but one of their affiliate partners is shutting down, just like Wendy's closed. Apparently, McDonald's is having a little bit of a hard time. But actually, the Texas burger did really, really well. So. Okay, there is a kanji. Yeah, but I mean, it's like I've never, ever, ever, ever heard anyone use anything but the katakana version for it. Well, then, not that I discuss them that regularly, especially not in a medical context. I guess that's just not the type of people I hang with. And actually, I bet if you showed that kanji to most Japanese people, they wouldn't know what it was. Actually, no, I can guarantee you the majority of Japanese people could not read that kanji. So, so basically McDonald's is struggling a little bit. And of course, David Ardo, and you guys know David Ardo, is immediately claiming credit because there was a bit of a... what would you call it? A boycott, like gaijin boycott of McDonald's over the last year or so, because they were running an ad campaign with a character featuring a white dude, and he's like a stereotypical white dude, and so David Ardo, who's a Japanese citizen but white guy, he's an American university professor in Hokkaido. He has appointed himself the Martin Luther King for Japan, and he led this whole big, anti-McDonald's, this advertising campaign for stereotyping white people, and it's like, yeah, Crimea River. White people. Oh man, it's as my friend, a Filipino comedian friend of mine used to say. You know, Kevin, this is just another case of the Asian man trying to keep the white man down. I don't think Super Size Me has been popular anywhere for about 10 years now. That's a while ago. But yeah, I guess it was, you know, a lot of people saw it. But the thing is, like, Super Size Me isn't. I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. Nobody here, like, was in any way, I don't think, surprised or anything like that. My friend Ken, the comedian I do comedy with, he has this joke. It's not funny if I say it, it's only funny if he says it because he's Japanese in his accent. But he says, like, they should make the movie, he should make a new movie called Chinese Me, where he only eats food and vegetables grown in China for 30 days and see if he doesn't die. God, I love him. But actually, I do have. I have a lot of extra rage around, apparently, that I'm not in need of. Because I was just having like a conniption. I went to Krispy Kreme this morning, and because there's a Krispy Kreme in Ikebukuro now, so I went there to have breakfast, I guess, and there was no line, zero line for Krispy Kreme donuts. But this is only like the third time I've been there, but I realize now why there has been a line all this time. They're fucking retards. That is why there's a line. That the entire layout and the whole, I don't know if it's the same as a Krispy Kreme in America, because I've been to a Krispy Kreme in America once in an airport. But they have this whole like broke ass system, and the amount of shit that she had to explain to me to do the transaction. Because normally, just generally speaking, in any kind of like customer service transaction in Tokyo, you're gonna have to put up with a certain degree of unnecessary conversation. Like, to give you an example, it's my favorite one. I went to the same Starbucks pretty much every other day for 3 years and ordered the same coffee from the same group of about 10 staff. And yet, I would say roughly in that time, 700 to 800 times, someone told me where the sugar and milk was located in the store. Like, they explained to me, hey, just Jim. The reason it's just the service here is impeccable, but it means that they never stray from the script. No matter how hard you try, no matter how you try and, like, you know, you jump them. Even if I was like, I know where the sugar is, like I know where the milk is, and or I just said I'll point out, because I'm saying I just like a black coffee, but the Japanese staff still have to tell me the sugar and milk is over here. But I mean, I don't see why that information would apply to me. But like, seriously, no, actually, and this is true, as Ubiquitous keeps saying, then you come back to the U.S. and you miss it actually, because like, you know, whenever I go back to New York and I'm in like a Penn Station trying to get a coffee, and there's just this enormous woman there, and she's just like, yes, can I have what you mommy? So anyway, but I was just amazed. Krispy Kreme has there was just so much bullshit. First, we had to discuss how long. What was it? Yeah. I said I want a coffee and 2 donuts. This donut and this donut, right? And that was fine. There was, you know, the whole 2 different coffee things. She had to explain the difference between the rich and the smooth coffee. I just pointed to I don't remember what rich maybe. I don't know. And then I didn't realize they're on the Starbucks system, the short, tall, grande, and I made the mistake of saying medium, M size, which is fairly universal, in Japan for medium size. So it's like any size coffee. Like, oh, we're on the Starbucks system here. I'm sorry, that's tall. And then it turns out that I get a free donut for ordering a drink, which she tells me now after I've already ordered the 2 donuts to eat. And so I'm like, all right, just put the other donut in a to-go bag, and I'll do something with it later. I'll play ring toss on the cock or something. I don't know. And then she asks me how far it's going to be and how long it will be until my destination, to give me I guess microwaving instructions or something like that, about proper care for the donut that they gave me free that I didn't want. And then while I'm doing this, I realize they're gift wrapping the free donut in several layers of packaging. And at this point, my brain started to seize. And it's just I don't need all of this. I just wanted a coffee and a fucking donut. But I was talking to my mom on the phone about a week ago. That was funny. She was in where was it? Buffalo, I think. They stop at this. They were going out to Ohio. They stop at this Krispy Kreme in Buffalo, and my mom goes in and she's like, "Yeah, I'll just have one chocolate cruller and a coffee." And the staff lady replies, "You want them all chocolate cruller?" And my mom says, "What do you mean all? I just with the one." And the woman behind the counter is like, "Oh, you mean just not a box?" And my mom's like, "No, not a box." And this America is why you're all fat. Because the woman behind the counter was like, why would someone order a donut? It doesn't. How would you use what? It's yeah. And my mom was reflecting, because here, people do, but in Tokyo, if you go to Krispy Kreme in Tokyo, people buy them for the office. That's the big thing. Everyone goes here and they buy a big box of them for the office. But I think actually in the States, when someone buys a box of Krispy Kreme donuts, that might be a personal order, which is difficult for me to comprehend. I had 2, and that was more than enough. I was good with 2. I got the third one in my bag. Maybe I'll give it to my guest when he gets here. The Krispy Kremes are good, but I don't think I could eat a box. And actually, they have in Tokyo, they've got a 6 donut box and a 12 donut box. Do they have a half dozen box at the Krispy Kreme in the U.S.? See? Yes, no? Because I was thinking about that, wait a minute. Who does a half dozen box? That doesn't sound American to me. That doesn't make sense. I don't think Dunkin' Donuts ever did a half dozen box. Yeah, but they do a half dozen box here, which I thought was interesting. Tells you something about the consumption amount. Actually, no. I could do 6 donuts. I could do definitely. Before I started to feel physically ill, I could eat half a dozen donuts and a coffee. Before I think I would start to feel around number 5 maybe. I'd begin to feel a bit queasy. The guest today is, kind of sneaking up on me. I guess I can call him an old friend now. I'll have to ask him when he gets here. I've known him for about 4 years. We've been doing comedy together at the Tokyo Comedy Store. His name is Vinay. He will be the first person of Indian descent on my little program here on the internet. But he's from California, so I'm not sure how much you can say about it. But he might have a slightly interesting take because he's kind of a Darjeeling tone skin color. So I'm curious to see a couple questions from him about that. So that might be interesting. But he's still a gonad. He's still a gonad. I should point out gonad, for those of you who don't know, is a gaijin of non-Asian descent. Although technically the subcontinent, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, are considered Asians by most people, but they are in the category Caucasian. So, like especially like the British, always referred to as Asia, near Asia. But actually, Indians are considered Caucasians. So yeah, gonad is a gaijin of non-Asian descent. So that's me, for example. Black dude in Tokyo would be a gonad. An Asian American or a Korean guy, not a gonad. And the reason I came up with this category is because it's kind of like the word gaijin, which means all foreigners, all people from outside the country, is sometimes too broad. So, like someone just asked, like, how's love life in Tokyo? And if I said something like, oh, well, it's pretty easy for a gaijin to meet someone of the opposite gender, that would not be true. If I said, for gonads, it's fairly easy, that might be true. But for gaikokujin as a whole, maybe not as true. My major in college was television, radio, and film at the Newhouse School of Syracuse University. I also majored in English and Textual Studies for a year, but I only did that, so I changed to a double major so that I could audit a grad class with a writer that I worship. So I changed my major so that I could then apply to the course to audit it as a non-grad student. This guy George Saunders. George Saunders is by far that's hard to say. Well, he's by far my favorite living author. He is. He's my favorite living author. Also, of course, Vonnegut, and I like a lot of people. I've been reading a lot of Flannery O'Connor. I'm almost done with this collection of Flannery O'Connor short stories. I read a lot of them when I was in high school, but I'm really enjoying those. Southern Gothic, awesome. And yes, I am in Tokyo. Yeah, strange as that might seem. Several clues here around the internet page that might lead you to that conclusion, but Parker 75, that is actually a very interesting and useful factoid. I am still actually just waking up. That, or there is some type of drug put in the Krispy Kreme donuts I ate earlier that are making me sleepy. Hold on a second. So actually, my guest for today's program is probably going to be here in about half an hour. I'm guessing 45 minutes. Knowing Vinay, an hour, because he'll get lost. So we've got some us time. Internet, me, you, just us. Got a little drink here. Oh, what's my ethnicity? I am white, American, Roman Catholic, Irish, German, French. I figure it's a typical. It's from where I'm from. I remember one time in high school, like we had in art class like a drawing our family crest thing, and like 80 or 90% of them had like either an Italian or an Irish flag on them. I grew up on Long Island, and specifically where I grew up, there was really three kinds of people: Irish, Italians, and Jews. That's it. And I went to a Christian high school, so not so many Jewish people in my school. I'm not a WASP. That would make me Protestant. Tokyo is bright and colorful in places. It's dreary and very much like any other city in most. For the most part, like example, I'll just point said camera out the window and you can see all the color and excitement. I mean, that block of apartments looks might as well be fucking North Korea. It's with the exception of the few international capitals that have somehow survived being destroyed by earthquake, war, fire, like and remain intact, pretty much every modern megalopolis, I'm not saying just a big city, I mean like Tokyo, London, New York, are like 80% similar, 90% similar. And there's like 10% of historic buildings that are somehow, still there. Actually, there haven't been any decent earthquakes very recently. Again, we're always living in fear of the big one. I may have explained this on here before. Sorry for the repetitive nature of this show sometimes. But the internet is non-linear, as it turns out. There, on average, is an earthquake in Tokyo every like 70 years, a big-ass one, that in the past destroyed most of the city. In the past, it would destroy so much of the city because you would die in an earthquake from fire, not from shit falling on you. Almost nobody dies from shit falling on them in an earthquake in the old days in Tokyo. Everything was made out of wood, and people were cooking with like hot coals and heating their house with hot coals. So if fires were a regular problem in Tokyo for hundreds of years, but one thing with Tokyo is that like once there's an earthquake, it would like pretty much like just destroy the entire city. So the last big earthquake is referred to as the Great Kanto earthquake, and that was in God, I don't remember. I'm guessing it's like 1923. I think it's somewhere around the 1920s. Bam! Thank you, Hiko Simon. And so in short, as Mr. Cole says, we're due. We're actually well overdue for a large earthquake. Now, putting that in perspective with Haiti considered, I'm not going to address that really much, but the last and deadliest, biggest earthquake, that's not technically correct, but was the Kobe earthquake in 95, 96, sometime around then. Kobe was a city of 1 million people, and roughly around 6,000 people died in the earthquake. So in a modern Japanese city, your odds of dying, and the Kobe earthquake was a big freaking earthquake. It was a massive one. Your odds of dying based on that as like a test subject are like 0.0006% are your odds of dying. and that was that was fires too. Actually, and most of it happened in very poor neighborhoods with very outdated building codes and shitty buildings. So like the likelihood of dying in an earthquake in Japan, like statistically speaking, is probably that of dying in a terrorist attack or I don't know, getting hit by lightning or But I realize that many people are very afraid of terrorist attacks and very afraid of earthquakes and lightning. It's just some things like lightning, for example. As you're growing up, it's very scary when you're a kid, but every time it happens and you don't get killed, you get a little bit less scared of it. I think it's probably the same thing with earthquakes. If you've been through enough earthquakes, the first one freaked me out. I freaking freaked out the first time I was in a building and the whole building started swaying back and forth. But now after 8 years and I don't know, probably a dozen, 2 dozen earthquakes, it's become more like, huh? Is that an earthquake? Yeah. And actually I read a great essay by an Israeli opinion columnist guy who said that, it was about a year or two after New York City attacks. He was essentially the problem with terrorists as a tool of technique is you can only use it a few times before it kind of starts to wear off. Because at some point people get that, it's the statistical chances of dying, even in a highly successful terrorist attack, are so much lower than, say, anything else, like drunk driving or homicide has higher rates. So the Israelis, for the most part, have just gotten used to it. So it's oh, was that a rocket? Huh. Oh well. That at some point, you just get numb to it. It becomes like weather, But it's more once you've dealt with it numerous times, it becomes less scary. Unless, of course, you're related to one of those people who happens to actually get killed, in which case it's probably far more traumatic and stressful. I have no idea of the name of this place at all. But it's a cafe. Yes, I'm in Yokohama, which now gives you time to transposition and locate where I am and come and attack me with a shiv, if that's what you're planning. Oh my god, Acoustic Kitty totally has a shiv all sharpened up and ready to go. Cloudy with a chance of rockets. It's sad, it's true. I mean, it's I'm from New York, I grew up there. I have, no direct friends who died in the attacks, but I have friends whose family did. But, frankly, more people die in drunk driving accidents every year in the U.S., or as many, it's almost about the same. As many people die in drunk driving accidents in the U.S. Each year as died in the terror attacks, I'm maybe just statistically more rational than some people, but I'm not afraid of terrorism. And besides, I'm in Japan. Come on, who's going to attack Japan? Because that a lot of terrorists have PlayStations and Xboxes, and they want that next Final Fantasy series to come out. So if you hit Tokyo, don't expect a Final Fantasy 14, baby. That's our ultimatum. I mean, you take out the U.S., what you decrease the world's fat people supply. But Japan, we got the game market. And I imagine there is somewhat of a similar profile between the religious fanatic and the otaku. I think that there may be DNA-wise, there's something a little bit, there's some crossover there. Yeah, I know, or New Zealand's another good example. Yeah, actually, I don't remember. There's some comedy in there somewhere in the otaku terrorist comparison. I'm not sure what it is, but there's a joke in there somewhere. Shadow Army 75, the Drury City thing. Do I find Tokyo and the Asian apartment buildings to be uglier than the ones in the States? Yes. Generally speaking, and if not uglier, stupider in terms of aesthetics, not in terms of functionality. This is really hard to explain, sorry, but quoting the mayor of Tokyo, Ishihara, who has said on record, I blame the architects of Tokyo for making this the ugliest city in the world. That's from the mayor. That's from the mayor. And I'm paraphrasing slightly, but because essentially there is no common thread at all in Tokyo. At all. There's no, it's, just pitch patch. New York, at least, we've got a number of buildings from a couple hundred years standing. Tokyo does not. Sorry, guys. Our bad. And also, there's a kind of, when you say like the metropolis city, New York, that there's a look, and everybody knows it. It's one of the things that got forgotten during the Twin Towers thing, is that everybody hated the Twin Towers in New York, architecturally speaking. They were hideous. And everyone said that they looked like they should have been in Chicago, not in New York. So there is a very, very clear New York aesthetic. But in Tokyo, not so much. Not really. But it's really because, but it's also I think connected to one of the Japanese great strong suits, which is their incredible ability to intermix things that Europeans and even Americans are just like so trained to like not do. Like so, for example, like a Japanese famous musician can do like any type of music on a CD they want, pretty much. They can be a heavy metal band, but they could release a ska song on like one of their tracks, and basically no one would think it was weird. In fashion, you can mix like day glow neon and Victorian Gothic fashion, and nobody cares. Like really, there's no like they don't get that. No, you see, because this is from this time period in Europe, and this is from this time period in Europe. So these two things can't be in the same outfit, because those rules that are kind of like embedded in like Europeans, the Asians don't have them. They just look at it as, well, oh, this is interesting, let's put these together. Yeah, I think the Japanese tend to be all over the place, but that can be a really strong suit, because I think they can be inventively good at mixing things in ways that Europeans are sometimes trapped by their traditions, Americans as well. But the buildings themselves, I mean, just they're utilitarian. The majority of buildings are just built to hold stuff, and they're not, you know, not hideous. But there's also Tokyo is very, very, very much a vertical city, a very, very vertical city. So, like when I'm walking around New York, I'm always looking at what's on the first floor of buildings, and because rarely, if ever, is there something of much value on the second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh, eighth, ninth floor of that building. Whatever business it is that's there is, it's right there on the first floor. The rest of it's like office space or something like that. But like in Tokyo, especially in like central parts of the city, there's this great Thai restaurant on the 7th floor of this like 10-floor building, and there's a massage place, and like it's all crammed in there into this one building. Sometimes like hundreds of, you know, bars, like say like, you know, in the kabukicho areas, the bars are a good example. Like literally like 200 bars in one building, and each bar only holds about 10 people. So it's like they're just crammed into this small space, but each one of them has to put a sign on the side of the building. So like, to give you an example of what I'm explaining, like for me, what I kind of find hideous is there's the buildings there, but they're hard to see, but just like sign after sign after sign after sign after sign, just festooning the outsiders of the buildings, and that gives every building a kind of tacky, it looks like a Floridian lawn. No offense to Florida, but it's like it's just got bric-a-brac and plastic flamingos and shit all over the sides of buildings, because like there's like some tiny little, you know, masseuse thing inside the building, and they need to put a sign outside somewhere. So the buildings themselves are all kind of hideous. Then again, like I mean, that's my feeling. If you talk to someone else might like it. I don't know. I'm not an architect. I have zero training whatsoever. I just find the city sometimes too busy and lacking any like sort of main theme. Also, there's really no sense of city, not city planning, but like commercial district and residential district and industrial are a little bit more intermixed here. So like, for example, like Harajuku, it's like house, furniture shop, house, hair salon, house, you know, it's all kind of intermixed. It's kind of weird. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, I was just watching an interview with some architect. Who was it? I can't remember the name of the website. But the guy who designed Brasilia, like basically he designed the entire city, which is now the capital of Brazil, and it was done like in like a decade or two. I was talking to him as I was reading his thing, and he had a quote in there which I thought was really interesting. It's funny, I read this last night, and we're talking about this today. He said that, like, his opinion was there is no like in architecture there is like good and bad. There is, you know, because you look at it and you say, wow, that looks nice, or you look at it and you go, ooh, and that's it, essentially. Right? If it's there's visually pleasing architecture, and then there's bad architecture. Really, Cleveland is a totally different culture from Canton? I think we're stretching the limit totally with that. Just slightly. Yeah, you got that. Kiko Simon just said in one sentence what I was rambling about for the last 10 minutes. God, I need a guest. Where is he? My favorite building in Japan. That's difficult. Because, like, if you mean like based on what's inside the building, or based on like the building itself, but I guess I'm most attached to Sunshine City, personally. I spent so much time there, but I think the coolest looking building in Tokyo it's the HAL Animation Design University in Shinjuku. Some of you might know it. I believe it's called HAL Animation Design University. I think so. If you Google HAL Animation Shinjuku, it'll probably come up. But it's a sweet ass building. It's just a cool ass looking building. Like, but I mean, I've never stepped foot inside it. I never will. I have no connection to it whatsoever. Yeah, Sashoyu retired. The deal with Sashoyu is retiring, though, is from what I understand, basically he was expecting to get thrown out of sumo, so he just like beat them to it. He got in. Actually, I don't know many of the details. Maybe someone else here knows better than I do. I'd like to know. I heard he got in some type of altercation. He basically broke some dude's nose during like a match, like outside of the match, like in the either the pre or after match period, which is a pretty big, like, sumo ethics, violation thing. And this is in a long line of shit that it was in Roppongi. Oh, it's always in Roppongi. Oh my god, it's always in Roppongi. So he was drunk and punched him in Roppongi. Not the first person to do that, but if you're the Yokozuna of sumo, you're not allowed to do that, because the JSA, the Japanese Sumo Association, basically they believe, and most Japanese also believe, that sumo is not a sport, or at least not only a sport. It's also a religious and cultural event, and so that to be champion, there's other things that must be considered, which are like your nobleness, I suppose. And it took Shoyu forever to become Yokozuna, despite clearly being deserved it, because like he was always kind of like he's always been just kind of basically he's been a dick a lot of the time, so people are not pleased with his behavior. And then there's a number of little incidents, and he was suspended for a brief time from sumo. And then I think after this Roppongi fight, he knew that they were going to kick him out, because like the JSA, I mean, hates him. And actually, and good for the Mongolian government, because he is Mongolian, it has freaked out about it, like, which is awesome, because he's like a huge national hero in Mongolia. But like the Mongolian government, they're gonna bring down the full force of Mongolian economy and army on the Japanese. Yeah, but actually, he could definitely transfer into UFC K1, which I mean, what was his name? Did Akebono do that, or was it the other fat Samoan? Yeah, but Akebono sucked. Because I just don't think he had, like, I think he was too old, for one. And I just think cardiovascularly, those guys are big, but if that match is not over within a minute, they're just gonna plop over. I mean, like, they're powerful guys, but they're definitely not, they're not going the long distance. Mm. I don't know. I'm conflicted about the sumo thing. I mean, I understand the JSA's whole sumo's not just a sport thing, but I'm just more practical. Sumo is not going to exist in the way it does now 10 years from now, no matter what the JSA does. It's impossible. Because currently, there are caps set on the number of foreigners allowed to compete in each of the different stables, which are not teams, but essentially, you can think of it that way. So they can only have like this percent foreign-born athletes in their stable. I believe now for the last 2 years, 0 Japanese people have applied to become sumo wrestlers. You know, like 15, 16-year-old kids who are like, you know what I want to do with my life? I want to die. I'll have a heart attack when I'm 45 and get the shit beat out of me regularly in the process of getting there. So basically, no young Japanese people are going to it. Actually, this year, I don't know. Last year was 0. The year before that, it was like 1 or 2. But like at best, they get like 1 or 2 Japanese young people. So literally, there's nobody coming. Like there's nobody coming up the ranks, like from Japan. And currently, like, you know, existing sumo wrestlers who are Japanese are starting to get older, and there's really not a lot of people like looking around now that look like they're going to be yokozuna. So like there may never be a Japanese yokozuna of sumo ever again. Ever again. It's entirely possible. I'd say the chances of there being a Japanese yokozuna like again are about as equal as a white dude winning the World Heavyweight Boxing Championships. And I think it's a pretty fair odds on those two. And it does. It comes down to like fire in the belly. Like those Mongolian kids, like they train like, you know, they're gonna rip somebody's head off. But if you're some 15-year-old kid from Kyushu, you're not, you know. I mean, maybe there'll be a couple, but they just don't want it enough. Because they'd rather, you know, be a civil servant. They'd rather work at Sony. Yes, basketball, like exactly, Danya, I put it exactly as you put it. Basketball is sort of popular in Japan. I mean, everybody knows it, and there's a couple Japanese players. I think the smartest thing any worldwide sport can do is just get a Japanese dude and put him on your team, because you will immediately sell so much like hats and shirts and shit here. So, I mean, sometimes they're actually like really good. Like, you know, in baseball, there's a lot of really great Japanese baseball players. Soccer, I think there's few. I don't know much about soccer. Yeah, Hiko Simon again has summed up everything I said in the last 10 minutes in one sentence. Japan's too well off, basically. Now, Japan, there's too many opportunities for young people to be successful, so that nobody, you know, there's no desperation. It's a satiated country. Yeah, but there's really no professional Japanese basketball that anybody like watches on a grand scale. You know, in Japan right now, it's definitely if you're over 60 sumo, everybody else baseball or soccer. And then like around Olympic times, they go crazy for the Olympics. The Japanese really love the Olympics. I could not express that enough. It's very, very, very important to them, and everybody is very well aware of it. Yes, there's already a lot of hype going on now. So like all the like product endorsements and news now devotes like 10 minutes to like some, freaking alpine skier no one heard about last year. And like for the next like month, they're going to be crazy interested in snowboarding. And then as soon as it's over and their international reputation's not on the line anymore, they'll go back to not giving a shit about any of these sports. I mean, that's just with every country, except maybe Sweden, Norway, Canada. There are a few countries that actually, are interested in winter sports, generally speaking. But like Japan's interest in the Olympics is solely how well it will do in comparison to everybody else in the world. And then as soon as it's over, they'll stop giving a shit about all the sports that were involved. Except for the people who, and there's a lot of these in Tokyo, who say their hobby is skiing or snowboarding and have been once in their life. That's a very common thing. Tokyoites, maybe it's true. I don't know about New York City. Maybe it's the same there. I don't have enough peers in New York City anymore to know. But like people say like all the time, like I love skiing. Yeah, every time I get a chance to go skiing. When was the last time you went? 2002. It was great. Just got the skis. And actually, like the last time the Winter Olympics were here, I was living in Kichigaburo, and actually there was, if you ever saw that video I did called Nightlife in Tokyo, and I showed that little shitty, dirty bar, I basically hung out for the entire Winter Olympics at that bar, and it was hilarious. It was so freaking funny. That bar was basically all men over 50, and then like the mama-sans from the other snack pubs and stuff like that around 2-3 in the morning would come in after they finished up work. But generally, everyone was there getting drunk till like 4-5 a.m. But like during the Winter Olympics, it was hilarious to watch these guys because they were all like taxi drivers and 60-year-old taxi drivers. And I remember they're watching this. It was half-pipe snowboarding, and they're having this argument about the judge's score for the Japanese player for the half-pipe snowboarding. And I'm like, I just want to be like, what the hell are you guys talking about? None of you have even touched a snowboard in your lives, and suddenly every single one. This is probably the same. This is the same in every country, of course. I'm just relating this to that Winter Olympics I spent. It's just funny being with all these old people in this bar, and everybody's a fucking expert about half-pipe snowboarding, and like what the proper score should have been, with their view from their bar seat in Tokyo. It was hilarious. And also it was kind of like this awesome little moment about the Lost Generation. The Lost Generation. Actually, I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been working on a news piece for NHK World News about the Lost Generation with the Frenchman who's been on this once, very drunk. I think you met him then. Basically, the Lost Generation, after the bubble burst, all the people who were about to graduate from the bubble, I never know how much to explain. Sorry, this is why my show can be very boring at times for some of you. I apologize. But basically, like in 1990, the Japanese economy imploded. It did kind of what the global economy did recently, but it was more localized. It was just in Japan. And everyone who was about to graduate like that year didn't get jobs, basically. I think it's, one-third of like the people who graduated in the following years never found anything more than like part-time, like convenience store, fast food place. But they all they had gone to universities. They had they did everything they were supposed to do, and then they're out to graduate, and basically every company was just like, "Yep, I'm not hiring." And then it started to get better, and now thinking it's going to happen again because of the new global recession. Everyone graduating now is now going to be called like the second lost generation, perhaps. But anyway, like that group of people are all like my age, like 30 to 35. 30 to 35 in Japan has the highest crime rate, wherein like a normal industrialized country like 20 to 25 would have a higher crime rate than 25 to 30, and that would be higher than 30 to 35. But Japan, statistically, unusually, the people who graduated during that lost generation period are more likely to commit a crime, more likely to commit murder, things like that. So, like, there's a whole lot of issues going on in that generation. Like, unemployment, self-esteem issues, like the Akihabara attacker, the guy who drove a van until Akihabara and started stabbing people. He is a classic example of the lost generation crowd. He was a very good student, very smart, worked really hard, and then he got like a really low-paying job in a factory, like pulling a lever, and was very disillusioned by his life. So that's kind of a typical example. But anyway, Melo Imai, who was the snowboarder for that Olympics, was lost generation. And what was awesome to me about it was, like, everybody who's like 50s and 60s in Japan looks at the lost generation and just says, quit your whining, no, you're just lazy. We rebuilt the country after the war, so don't go bitching and whining about, how tough the world is. Ooh, So there's this little bit of tension between like the older people who rebuilt the country and the that generation who like graduated from university and didn't get their jobs at big companies. But a lot of those people kind of went into doing other stuff, like just doing other random shit. And one of those things is snowboarding. So Melo Imai, who was like the great white hope, Japanese hope for like snowboarding at the Olympics, got into snowboarding because essentially she was never able to really find a job. So she, did other stuff. She did work part-time, and then she'd spend the rest of her free time like snowboarding. And Japanese society has a general tendency to shit on these people all year round and say that they're non-productive members of society because they're not fully employed, they're just, immature kids. But then like one of them gets like really good at an international sport, and then they're like, she's our girl, go Mello, yes, we love her. And so it's hilarious for me just as a kind of social outsider, because like if she had actually walked into that bar and was talking to everybody, and like non-Winter Olympics season, and they said, "Oh, so what do you do?" And she'd be like, "Oh, I'm a snowboarder. I'm a professional snowboarder." Like all the men over 50 or 60 that mile, then fucking waste of space. Why aren't you pregnant? So it's this hilarious like paradox that they're so disrespected for like large parts of the year, but like at the Winter Olympics they come very handy, so they become like heroes during the Winter Olympics. But then like after that's over, it's like, yeah, so why aren't you married and have a kid again? What's with that? Like why don't you work at a big company? Yeah, baby maker, yeah, a baby machine, in the words of the Health and Human Services Ministry Director, former Health and Human Service Ministries Director here in Japan. Kicking a puppy, definitely illegal. Japan has very strict animal cruelty laws, surprisingly enough. No, not surprisingly to me. You can get, I learned this fairly recently too. Apparently you can get jail time for removing a bird's nest from your like apartment balcony. There's so many cats because there's so many old women. This is my theory. Couples got married, their husbands died earlier. Japanese women live basically forever and have nothing else to do then or anyone to talk to, so they feed cats in your neighborhood. So go out, around 7 p.m. in your neighborhood, or no, morning is another good time, like 5 a.m. and the 70, 80-year-old women are out there putting out cat food for their little babies. Again, anyone who lives in Tokyo will probably agree with that. But dogs, you never see stray dogs. Never. I've never once, never, ever, ever once seen a stray dog in Tokyo. Well, I have a pet. I have a fish named Kenji and a snail named Gary, but he's just visiting, I think. He has a destiny with the toilet. Yeah, and I would love to have a dog, but the house I live in now, I contractually am not allowed to have a dog in. I was looking for a place where I could have a dog, but I couldn't find a place that I both liked, could afford, was in a location I wanted, and you could have a dog. So, how's Tokyo handling the upcoming Valentine's Day? It is, of course, very different from the U.S. in that Valentine's Day in Japan, women give things to men, and then 1 month later, in March, there's another holiday called White Day, and men are expected to reciprocate by giving back to the women who gave things to them. This is an insidious plan, because if you reversed the order, there would be no chocolate sold. Because if men had to go first, really? Fuck that, I'm not buying anything. And then women wouldn't be able to buy chocolate to reciprocate. So what they did is, by doing it with women first, women are like, oh shit, I so do not want to get nothing, so I'm going to give as much chocolate to as many men as possible, thinking I'm going to get a good percentage of return back on that a month later. Whereas men, I don't think they're going to enter. This is not a high stakes gamble that men are considering. Chocolate? Fuck that. If I want chocolate, I'll buy it myself. So it's kind of evil. There's also something called giri chocolate. Giri is a wonderful word. It means obligation, I suppose. Translated as obligation. It's often used in Yakuza movies. Somebody does something out of giri. It's because it's not that they want to do it, it's just that they're obliged to do it. So if somebody kills your brother, you have to kill the guy who killed your brother. Actually, that's not the best example, but you get the idea. So giri chocolate, or giri choco, is basically chocolate you have to give people because it's socially expected of you to do it. But that's very different from love chocolate, which is the chocolate you give your special someone. So, and it's a noticeable difference. I've gotten a ton of giri choco over the years. When I was teaching, Jesus, it's amazing I'm not diabetic. Back when I was teaching full time, I would get so much fucking chocolate. It was ridiculous. And then this is a very little known fact about me, but one of my hobbies is ice cream and candy making. And so then on White Day I would make caramels or something and give them out to students. But I could never remember who gave me what. I should have kept the list or something, but I have trouble remembering my parents' birthdays. I'm a horrible person. But no, I went with caramels because actually they're easier to make. but technically I think I was supposed to get chocolate. And if you're ever in Japan, let me just give a little bit of a warning to any of you guys out there. If you're ever in Japan and you receive as a gift from a woman a muffler, or scarf, or anything that wraps around your neck, necktie, muffler, scarf, anything in that region, even a hat is kind of borderline. That's not just a scarf. That is the, you have been, like, look in the bushes outside your house. She's probably there. Yeah, no, claimed. Yeah, that's the word I think I was looking for. You have been claimed. A flag has been planted in your ass. And I remember, like the first year I was here, or so, it's like, oh, a scarf. Oh, thanks. I guess I could use a scarf. And like I had no idea what that meant. And then like a couple days later, someone was like, "Oh, cool, that's a nice scarf. Where'd you get that?" I was like, "Oh yeah, this person gave it to me." And like, you know what that means? It means they're a nice, generous person. It was my birthday. I mean, I gotta buy something. And it's like, no. Like the scarf as a present is like just laden with meaning. That's I guess how you say I love you in Japanese. You buy a scarf. Well, I mean, what you do is entirely in response to how you feel about said person, obviously. Jake, thank you just for making me hungry. I'm waiting to eat. It's hard. It says he's going to be here at like 1. I'm allowed to call him tired because I've known him for a long time. I just tell him the show. Yeah. Actually, that's Nexi. What Nexi just said is very true too. Be careful what you say casually in conversation to people because they'll end up buying it. It's like with my parents. Like if they send something from the States, and then I say like, "Oh, hey, thanks for that caramel corn. That was delicious." They will send tons of it. Yeah, getting a tie is definitely a love letter in secret. That's a step up from chocolate. No, it doesn't work with Xbox. It doesn't work with anything actually that you'd ever want. It just works with like this is very weird and uncomfortable, but in the time, I don't like talking about this because it's just weird. In the time I was teaching, like back when I was teaching, I was given by one of my students, a female student, in total, if I can remember all of it now, a blender, a bicycle, like designer kind of bag, what else? God, there was a ton of shit. Like, yeah, she gave me a bicycle. Like, I walked out of the building at night. It was like my birthday. I walked out of my building, and she's standing in front of the school with a bicycle. I'm like, oh, hey, nice to see you. And she's like, here, this is a bicycle for you. It's like, okay, that's in no way normal. But, oh yeah, of course I kept this stuff. Are you crazy? And I had tried on many times to tell her, and I'm like, seriously though, stop. That's it. And I just stop. And I said, I'm by no means special. I am by no means special. She was in her 40s, I believe, late 30s, early 40s. Married, and there was never any, she never asked me on a date, never did anything. She just would continuously give me stuff. Now I think if I went back into teaching, I don't think I'd be getting much. But back when I was 23, 24, 25, did pretty well for the free stuff from women. But now, I don't think so much. But if you talk to any guy who's taught in Tokyo for a period of time, and at least somewhat charismatic, they have been given, many of them, most I would say, have been given inappropriate. Give me an MP3 player, but it was one I didn't want, kind of. You know how that is? It's oh, it's a Zune. But I mean, it's just, that's weird. Yeah, the whole gift giving thing is weird. The Dojo Files. I liked how you started off with bike, but you weren't sure if the subtlety, if it was a little too subtle, so you just threw the dick in there, just to I would have gotten it with the bike. If you just said bike, I would have gotten the connotation. I didn't need the slash penis. Oh yeah, so Parker's 35, RJ Swimming Cougars. Of course. Definitely. And that's the thing is with that woman who was giving me the stuff, I don't really know that it was, it wasn't a cougar thing. It wasn't I didn't think it was. I don't know. I don't want to, honestly, I don't want to think about it. That's what I really want to think about. But, here it fucking is. Sorry, I gotta talk to the retard. Don't tell him I said that he was a retard when he gets here. Hey! Where are you, dude? Okay. Yeah, you can't miss the escalator. It's like the stairway to heaven. No, this building was designed by M. Escher. I have no idea how to get from one floor to the other in this fucking weird-ass building. Okay. Alright, see you in a bit. Alright, he's here. Yeah, it's like that scene with David Bowie in Labyrinth when the baby is crawling along and it's the ball thing. And David Bowie is singing the stupid song. How do you forgive David Bowie? All the crazy ass shit he's made. Seriously. And I've seen him recently. He's looking good. Actually, I think David Bowie looks better now than he ever looked previously. He looked too, I don't know, elfish when he was young. The reason I saw him, he looks like kind of a, wow, it's not possible, but a swarthier Sting. I was listening to can't remember what show I was watching. I started watching Big Bang Theory. That's all right. And I just watched all of Torchwood. Yeah, I think it was in Torchwood, which is a BBC sci-fi drama. And there was this one scene where they're playing this David Bowie song, what is it? There's a spaceman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and see us. Which is great for karaoke, by the way. That's a very good pick for karaoke. But anyway, so I just listening to the lyrics as they're rolling them over the credits, something like, this is the craziest fucking song. Seriously. There really was a lot of drugs back then. I've seen all the Torchbridge episodes. I watched, yes, season 5, what the hell? It was only 5, season 3 was only 5 episodes long. 8. And you turn right. Yeah. Then turn right. Oh, it's right here. You just go, after you get the escalator, you go right. And just go walk in a little bit on the side there. It's there. Oh, indeed it is. I can feel the disturbance in the force already. Or is that just booze I smell? Get here. All right. Later. I was, mentally positioning myself. The food here kind of sucks, but they have nice internet.
I just ate lunch.
You just ate lunch?
Yeah, I had to eat lunch at school.
Oh, okay. I was gonna.
Otherwise, I would have been here sooner.
All right. Well, now I feel stupid for having waited.
Sorry.
No, I'm just a silly bully. So let me introduce you to the internet.
Hi, internet.
So one question: where did you get that scarf?
Well, what guess?
Was it given to you?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well,
I was just explaining before about Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
and like the danger of if you receive a scarf, then that means you've been someone's staking their claim.
It's like a noose.
Yeah, it's.
I received these. I never buy like gloves or something.
Beef curry, rice, to coffee. Cola, wait a second.
Cola.
Yeah, but it's seriously true. It's like, because like in the States, if you got a scarf, it's just a scarf. It's just like, hey, I got you a scarf, but it's cold.
Yeah.
But here, if you get a scarf, it's like, ooh, you get a scarf.
Yeah, I think it was given to me. I can't even remember, but either for Valentine's Day or for my birthday.
Yeah, but there's always that awkward moment. Like, have you ever gotten a scarf from like a student or something like that? Or like there's sometimes that awkward moment, like where someone gets you like the scarf, and you're like, oh, thank you. Yeah, and there's this weird like social tension there.
I haven't had any awkward scarf
moments, no.
My sister knitted a scarf for me once. Should I be confused by that?
Well, I don't know what they do, amongst your people. So I guess we should just. So this is the internet. The internet.
Oh, www.
The internet people talk here, and they mostly speak in this strange language of letters.
Right.
RFL and stuff. Ruffle, lol, ruffle. I don't know what half of this stuff means.
I just saw something about anal rape.
And then there's like the people who are here, and usually a dick shows up at some point, and then I have to like bring them out, which is irritating.
Ruffle, that's weird. I've never done this before.
I know.
Like something I said just instantly showed up.
This is people in the room, and basically, yeah. I can refer some of it, but I'm always bad at predicting what parts are going to be interesting and so of course prosperity. But essentially,
everything I say is gold.
That is true. That is true. Let's just start off with who are you, good sir? And actually, I was wondering for how long have we known each other now? Because time has a way of kind of just like.
Well, I met you at the first time I did stand-up, I think.
Yeah.
And that was about maybe 4.5 years ago.
Yeah, that was my guess. I did 4 or 5 years. So actually, yeah, that's weird. Like 4 or 5 years now. I still, in some ways, still think of you as like a new guy. Not so much anymore. It's fading.
I mean, there hasn't been like a regular since me.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Yeah, I think because you're the newest regular. But you lived up in the countryside before you came to Tokyo.
Yes, I lived in Iwate for 3 years.
Iwate. And what were you doing in Iwate?
I was on the JET program,
Nice.
so I was living in New York,
Yeah.
and I just kind of, I don't know, fell into like a rut, and just decided. Actually, the way I ended up in Japan was kind of based on a drunken bet, actually.
You lived
yeah.
in Japan based on a drunken bet?
Well, like, I'd been kind of like thinking about what I could do.
Curry. Sure? Huh?
Well,
Huh?
you call it curry, but
This is the food of your people. Actually, I'll just put you on the spot real quickly. Japanese curry or Indian curry?
no competition. But I've grown to love Japanese curry, but can't compete to Indian curry. in my opinion.
Alright. Okay.
But when the first time I tried Japanese curry, which was my first day in Japan,
Yeah, that was exactly what I'd expect. The first day an Indian person showed up in Japan, Japanese people were like, quickly, get him to a Japanese
no,
curry
I actually
shop.
just stumbled into the place by myself. Not really. I didn't know anything about Japanese curry. I just needed a quick bite, and I saw this place, and so I went in.
Curry called out to you.
Yeah, and then I ate it, and I was like, what the hell is this?
My first meal in Japan was at a place with a neon sign that said American Beer Restaurant. Somehow I just felt drawn in.
There's this restaurant in Yokohama that I used to walk by, and it was called. The name of the place was Family Beer Restaurant.
Beer Restaurant. Like, but in the States, it might have actually been the Beer Family. You know, it's spelled with an I. All right, so wait,
Drunken bet.
drunken bet, but like, you're not from New York, though, right?
I'm not. I'm from LA. I was born in LA. Grew up in the suburbs. Family's from India.
All right, so you're first generation American.
First generation.
All right, and now you've gone to a different part of Asia, just within one generation. How do the folks feel about that?
They don't like.
I mean, because they didn't really say shit. It's sort of like, whoa, you left your country to go to a country.
Oh yeah, they don't
You
really
know.
care about that so much, and also they don't really think of like India and Japan as being in like Asia doesn't really mean anything that way. It's too like distant.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had no problem with me coming here. They have a huge problem with me staying as long as I have.
Yeah. Why aren't you interning at Johns Hopkins yet?
Yeah, they gave up hope for that, like for like serious like a career like, many years ago. So I'm lucky. I conditioned them at an early age to be disappointed.
Nice.
But yeah, now things are because I'm and how old are you? I think we're about the same age. I'm not sure.
Yeah, 32.
Right, I'm 33. So
Wow.
things are getting to the point where it's like kind of hard to explain.
May this
Like when you're
video-
20 in your 20s, you can just say do whatever.
Yeah. Well, may this video serve as a warning to younger people out there. Don't end up like us. Don't go this route.
There, but for the grace of God.
Walk. I and us, me and you.
Go we.
We. No, I was gonna say fourth, but not really fourth. More like sixth or seventh.
Yeah. But it's so weird. It's like
Is Japan terrible? Like, no, Japan's wonderful. Japan's wonderful.
I love Japan.
Yeah, I love Japan.
And actually, we say let us be a warning, but I don't really mean that 100%.
Same here. Yeah, exactly. I've had a fabulous time with it.
I never planned on staying like for good.
Me too. And yeah, I was again 1 year, and then I'm moving on somewhere else.
I thought like maybe 2 years, but like now it's been about eight and a half.
Yeah, same as me.
And I still don't think that I'm a lifer, but like it starts to sound ridiculous when I say that. When people ask me, they're like, "So you're gonna stay here forever?" I'm like, "No." And then it's like people laugh automatically. It's not like people can't take that answer seriously anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird like sort of acceptance you get into. It's like, yeah, the only way I'm living here is in the box.
Do all people play Pokemon in Japan?
That's just one of the many wonderful questions you'll be receiving today. Before we get to their pressing, concerning questions, Just a couple more things about you. You do comedy with the Comedy Store.
Yes.
I will admit to, I have stolen one of your jokes and used it many times on this internet forum. He's the origin of I love this bit. I've been to a lot of like onsen. Can I do it?
Sure, go for it.
You want to do it?
No, go.
I'll do it. This is me doing it. Yeah, I've been to a lot of onsen, and literally over the past 8.5 years, I can't even imagine. I can't count the number of Japanese men's, penises I've seen over the years. I'm not specifically looking, but I've seen a lot. And there is this rumor about them out there, but I'd hate to say this, but I just want to confirm the rumor about Japanese men's penises. They do taste like green tea.
somebody jumped the punchline. That's crazy.
I've done it before. I love that joke.
That was maybe the first joke I wrote.
Really?
When I first thought I'm going to try stand up.
Oh, cool. Because that's your best joke.
Yeah, it's sad.
Before you come.
It's kind of, I like it.
My favorite thing, you just did this at the last two shows, but like the last show you did the thing with voices of actors in movies that don't exist.
Right.
But the way you did it beforehand, I thought worked so much better. And please just do one or two. I know how much that's annoying. But lines by Japanese, lines in Japanese by famous American actors.
Oh, but that wasn't me. That's actually a different dude's bit.
Oh, that's why I liked it so much. Sorry.
Yeah, when I heard
that was great.
Oh, I know. I never think of that.
That was great. Yeah, no, I was thinking of a different guy. Sorry about that.
It's all right. So I don't have to do it.
No, you don't.
I hate.
Yeah, I know.
I was happy to let you do the green tea joke. I only do it on stage because
that and Ken's joke about segregation on transportation. Yeah. Those two are probably the two best. Those are the two most perfect jokes I've heard. I think in my entire time at the Comedy Store. Like they're just like perfect. I love them.
Yeah, I have very few jokes like that are just like set up punchline.
Yeah.
I wish I had more. Just a simple, almost a one-liner.
You living in Tokyo now?
Yeah. I did 3 years in Iwate, 1.5 years in Yokohama, and the past almost 4 years in Tokyo.
You want to say what neighborhood?
I live in Ochiai, which is in Shinjuku Ward.
West of Shinjuku.
It's not right in Shinjuku Station. It's in the ward. It's about 10 minutes by train from Shinjuku.
How would you recommend it?
My neighborhood that I'm in is called Nishi-Ochiai, and it's really convenient, and I love my apartment, but the neighborhood itself, I'm not huge. Basically, it's really dead. There's nothing, there's no restaurants, no bars, there's barely even a supermarket.
Well, it's residential, right?
Yeah. But it's so close to Shinjuku, you would never know you were that close, when you were walking around there.
Yeah. You're also not far from Kichijoji.
Kind of different area. Kind of it's on the Oedo line. It's a little bit north and west of Shinjuku.
The Oedo line sucks.
Yeah, it's the worst. I don't usually use it. There's another train line I can use.
All right, so I guess that pretty much does it for introductions. That's all I can think to ask about you.
Do they have small hotels? Are we we're doing an answer question this time?
Spell with an I or a Y?
Y. One of the reasons.
So yeah, now I'm just going to open up for questions from you people out there. Praise yourself, and you can answer whatever you want to answer. Just ignore the retards.
For Jet, because they're just talking to each other.
Yeah, actually,
supposed to ask us questions.
I know there's going to be questions about Jet. I never did Jet. I have no idea about Jet.
Yeah,
I just know. Was it the Jet?
I had a great experience on the JET program. I mean, job-wise, it doesn't really differ from any ALT job. I don't know if you've ever done ALT work. It's working in public schools.
As you're an assistant language teacher. So there's a Japanese dude or dudette who's the teacher.
Yeah.
And then you're there as a resource for the class as a teacher.
Yeah, but it really varies like highly depending on the teacher.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like doing everything.
Okay.
The best scenario is when the Japanese teachers are like really enthusiastic, really into it, and it's like you really like are like a team. It's called team teaching. Is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, but I've heard horror stories that it's just like you just sit in the corner every now and then they ask you to say a word out loud.
Human tape recorder.
Yeah, and then I've heard other scenarios where like the guy was like offloading all the lesson planning and everything onto.
Yeah, I've had everything, every kind of experience. Although the human tape recorder experience has been like minimal for me, which is good. More often it's just me doing everything while the Japanese person sits in the corner.
Generally, would you recommend Jet or go with a private company if you're coming here to teach?
I would say Jet is great if you can get it. It's competitive to get into, and then also the biggest drawback for some people is that you
end up in Iwate.
Well, yeah, you don't get to choose where you go.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't mind being anywhere in Japan, then it's the best way to go, I think. Jet has a higher than average salary. It's not like amazing, but it really depends on your specific experience. Jet sometimes pays for your housing. It depends on which like prefecture you're working for and what the deal is with that board of education.
In my case, they'll give you a car.
Yeah, sometimes you get a car, but sometimes you have to pay for everything. I was lucky; I got almost all of my apartment paid for, so I had to pay about $100 a month. But it was a huge, like 3-bedroom apartment. It was designed; it's like teachers' housing, so it was designed for like a teacher with his family, you know. But it was just me, and it was like right next door to my school. So I could walk to work in 30 seconds. Okay, did you know any Japanese? No, I did not. Did you, Kevin?
Zero.
Yeah, I knew zero.
I bought the kanji practice, like that black kanji book. You know, it's got like the first 600 Jojo kanji.
Yeah,
I opened it like twice.
I never
Spring uses it in her bits a couple times.
Oh yeah.
The same book. And I bought like a Japanese for busy people book.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And it was about 4 or 5, 6 months in, I started studying in earnest.
Yeah.
And I blame that for still being here. If I had not started studying Japanese, I would have left after 1 year.
Yeah.
But once I could finally start to communicate, the country was so much more interesting.
Yeah.
Literally, Japan was my oyster, and I plucked it.
You sucked it out of the shell.
Out of the shell. No, I mean, it was such a different experience once I started learning the language to, you know, being kind of disengaged.
Yeah.
I would just like go into work, hang out with Western friends. But once I started learning the language, it just changed my view on it. So
yeah, I didn't know any Japanese before except for like sayonara and you know, kamikaze and but I'm like really like I like love trying to speak new languages. It's like a kind of nerdy obsession of mine. So like that was the thing I was most excited about coming here. And anytime I go anywhere, I was like, as soon as I got here, I was like, but I don't like studying. I hate studying languages, but I love like talking to people. So as soon as, and I was lucky because I was in Iwate, so it was kind of like, you know, nobody speaks English. So I mean, I was lucky in my town. There were like a couple people who could speak English, so they were like my first friends. But I made them teach me as much as possible. Like every time we hung out, it was just like, how do you say this? How do you say that? How do you say this? And I'd say I was like conversant in a few months. Like I could have a basic conversation.
yeah, I carried around like a notebook, a little piece of pad, and a pen, and I just like wrote down everything I ever heard in the bar, or I got new words, and I was just constantly studying. But it wasn't as so much as I was also actually studying classes.
Yeah.
Alongside that. But yeah. But then also I was like very eager then.
Yeah.
Now, like, I hear a new Japanese word I haven't learned. I'm like, oh, that's how you say that. I'm probably not going to need to say that.
Yeah.
You know, like the motivation kind of starts to wane, I think, as you get more conversant.
Yeah, I feel like I hit like a plateau a few years ago with my Japanese, and it hasn't like it improves very gradually, but
like my kanji are getting better, but not like you don't notice it.
My kanji is like not very good. I'm like my Japanese is very conversational.
Yeah,
but it's not like you know. I couldn't like you know take a class in Japanese. You know what I mean?
Have you taken any of the JLPTs?
Yes and no.
We don't have to ask. I don't talk about it.
No, it's a funny story. when I think like 7 years ago, maybe after I'd been here for about a year, I decided to take the level 3, and I even studied for it because I hadn't studied any kanji before then.
Yeah.
So you need to know like I think about 300 or so for the level 3.
I've changed. There's 5 levels now, I heard.
Oh yeah. There were 4 then. I think level 4 is like 100 and level 3 is like about 300. I'm not sure. So I studied those and I felt like pretty good about it. And like kanji was my weak point, but I knew that like just basic stuff I had down pretty well. So I was pretty confident about it. And at that time, you like if you lived in Iwate, the closest place you could take the test was Tokyo. Now you can take it in Sendai, which is a lot closer, but then you could only take it in Tokyo. So I took, it was on a Sunday. I came down to Tokyo, I think on Friday. Got drunk Friday night, got drunk. So I was staying with a friend of mine in Omiya in Saitama outside of Tokyo. And we got drunk till like 4 a.m. the night before the test. And then, we woke up early the next day and he like went online and figured out exactly what train I need to take to get to the test center on time. He he mailed it to my phone, so I had go to Omiya Station and take this train at this time. So I went to Omiya Station. I went to the train line that I was supposed to take, and at the exact time that my train was supposed to depart, a train arrived. So I hopped on it, and I was on the train, and I was studying on the train, and studying, and then kind of lost in my own head studying. And after a while, I realized, wait, we've been traveling for a long time. And I looked out the window, and all I saw was rice fields. And I was like, oh.
So I guess the test didn't go well then.
Yeah, so basically I took the right train line but opposite direction. There was a train going the opposite direction at the exact same time.
Yeah, that is, as Fast Track says, epic fail.
Yeah, epic fail.
I use the internet language. Yeah. There's a question that was asked before, and I can't see the questions. It's just difficult to answer them while conversing. I can't stop the question. But
we're both too talkative.
Yes,
get wrapped up in our own.
Why did you come to Japan? And you already talked about that, but if I'd ask again, why specifically Japan when there are so many countries you could have gone to?
For me, it really was just because I heard about the JET program, and it seemed like a cool thing. It wasn't like I had any specific interest in Japan. That's kind of a boring answer, but
I know, for me too.
I have always loved traveling, and I get excited to go anywhere. And I don't really care where it is as long as it's somewhere new.
Exactly.
So I don't usually have many expectations. When I was in college, I studied abroad in the Czech Republic for a year, and until the day I arrived there, I didn't even for once think about what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
I just kept my mind blank, and as soon as I arrived, then I was okay.
Yeah.
Take everything in. It's pretty much the same with Japan. I had no expectations.
I could say it's the same thing for me.
But yeah, I basically heard about the JET program. It sounded cool, so I applied to it. I was getting back to the drunken bet thing. I got drunk with a friend of mine and told him about the JET program, and he said, "It sounds awesome." I was like, "Yeah, they pay for your plane ticket," which you won't get with other jobs, by the way.
Yeah.
They pay for your round trip.
You used to get it with some of the other companies years ago. But.
So they pay for your round trip plane ticket. You get a decent salary. Someone was asking earlier, I noticed. It's, I think actually the JET program salary, it comes to about $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
US dollars. So about a little bit more than $3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a decent salary, and then if you're lucky like me, they pay for your apartment, and sometimes they give you a car, stuff like that. So, and you basically live in some town somewhere in Japan and teach kids, and then I was talking about it to some friends before I came, and one of my friends was like, "Yeah, I know someone who did that." He said all he did was go to hot springs and go fishing with old Japanese men and get drunk all the time, and I was like, I think I could do that.
Yeah, exactly. I knew a guy who lived on one of those little islands near Kyushu, and it was you have to take a ferry to get to the island, and there's something 200 people on the island.
Yeah, I knew someone who was.
And he said it was him, the town police officer, and the town monk, essentially, would be the 3 guys at the bar at night, and it was just you knew everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, literally, you just be walking along and they're like, hey, you want to go fishing? You know, and you hop in their boat and like go fishing, or someone like invites you over for dinner, you know, just so that their kids can practice some English or whatever. Or they just want to have an instant guest for dinner. Yeah, it becomes very communal very quickly.
Yeah, totally. My experience wasn't quite so rustic. I lived in a decent sized town by Iwate standards. Iwate is very rural, but I lived in one of the bigger towns, so it wasn't like like everybody knew you, but like it seemed like everybody knew you. Like if I walked out, even when I go back now, I haven't lived there for like about 6 years now. But when I go back, I don't I tell my good friends, but I don't tell everybody. And then I just walk around town and people are like, hey, Vinay, you're back.
I remember one time I was in Nagano. And Nagano's a pretty big town. And this guy on the street stopped us. He was like, so you guys aren't from here? Where you're in town for tourism? And I'm like, well, yeah, how do you know we're not from here? He's like, yeah, I know all the gaijin who live in Nagano. Yeah. Like, we know each other. You got here this week, or...
I knew all of the gaijin in Iwate, or so I thought. And then one day I was driving with some friends through this town that I hadn't really spent time in. And I saw this white guy from far away walking down the street, and I thought, what the fuck? A white dude I don't know in Iwate? Who the fuck is this guy? And then he got closer, and I discovered he was an albino. So in fact, I think I did know. It proved me correct.
Actually, who is it? Nana Star, this other girl on YouTube, just tweeted the other day. I can't believe I said that sentence. Oh my God! Just saw my first Japanese albino.
Yeah.
And so I remember that moment too. Yeah. I was walking through Ikebukuro actually. It's like, wait, what? Huh? Oh yeah, they would have those.
Yeah. Yeah, albinos are great.
You know their bones are
magic. Me on that.
Actually, we discussed albinos and the magic of albino bones on this program several times in the past.
Albino bones?
Yes, they're used for medicinal purposes in some African nations. Which is imagine being born an albino. That's pretty bad. But then surrounded by people who think that your bones have magical curative properties.
Well, I think I would really...
That's like a double whammy. That's a pretty big double whammy.
It's kind of a compliment though.
When they're trying to get the bones from you.
It's an honorable death.
Well, you say.
I think I would like to be an albino if I wasn't in a culture that wanted to get my bones for it.
Yeah, it's unique.
Yeah. Sometimes I see albinos, I think they're so cool looking.
It is, yeah.
And then I'm sure it gets kind of frustrating being always seen as different, but as long as you're able to deal with it.
But I generally always thought they looked cool.
Yeah.
Rather than
black. Sorry, if this was racist, but black albino people look so cool.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, in New York City, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just it's a weird it's like someone I imagine. It's like a Final Fantasy Avatar came to life. What?
I guess it's the traditional albino segment of every.
Yeah. This keeps coming up. Actually, no, I do ask about the skin color thing. Do you think this town's any different for me than it's for you because you're Darjeeling and I'm, the master race?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. This is gonna sound maybe stupid, but
a lot of the shit I say on here does.
I always felt kind of visually out of place my whole life. Because I grew up in a largely white upper middle class suburb, and I just never felt like I fit in fully visually. And personality wise also, I'm not very suburban American. My personality.
Well, I mean, you got comedy obviously. I think that's a unifying factor. Almost all comedians they're almost always somewhat outside of mainstream.
But I mean, I lived in New York, and I felt personality-wise, I fit in New York, but still visually not quite. Because it's weird, I don't know. Because Indian Americans, even when there are lots of Indians in America, but they all tend to be in the more mainstream sector of American society.
Yeah,
it's kind of a conservative subculture. And they all kind of dress the same, and I never related to that kind of group of people so much.
So when gaijin complain about being stared at in the train and stuff like that, what's your take on that?
I don't like I said, I feel like I've been used to being stared at my whole life, so it's never something that really bothered me.
Okay.
I hate it when I feel like people are laughing at me. And sometimes I feel that way, like even in America and then here, and that I hate.
Yeah.
But if people are just looking at me, then I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I stare at people all the time because I find people fascinating. Like even in Japan, I'm on the train.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
I stare at so many people.
That's the thing. It's like if I get on a train and I see a guy in there, I'm obviously gonna look, you know. But then some other guys can get really upset about it. I don't know.
I feel like we're really ignoring all their.
Yeah, we really are. Sorry about that.
Should we do like a little bit focus on?
Yeah, we should. We should try.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna focus.
Okay, this Jay Davis has been asking this question for like 10 minutes. Eikaiwa, no. I've done Eikaiwa for a few years, but right now I'm back in elementary school. So basically, I did 3 years on the JET program, which is the maximum, because I loved where I lived so much. I fell in love with the place. There I was teaching in a high school, like I was an ALT in high school. Then I moved to Yokohama and got a job with a company as an ALT in junior high school. Then I did Eikaiwa. Yes, I'm still teaching for a living. Then I did Eikaiwa for like 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. And for the past year, I've been back in public school. So now I'm an elementary school ALT. So I've done just about every kind of English teaching job. I haven't taught. Well, I did teach in university a little bit actually.
Yeah, same here. I've probably taught every level, every age at some point around there.
My JET interview was. I'm such a loser. Like
it's true.
Like, basically, when I had my JET interview, I got shit-faced the night before, which is kind of. I think this is kind of a running theme.
Yeah, it's a current theme. Don't worry. A lot of my stories start that way too.
And then the next day I had my interview and I kind of like slept in, but I was just left at the very latest I could possibly leave. But here's the thing, I was so dumb back in those days that it didn't even occur to me that I should wear a suit to my interview.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you're a shame to all Indians.
Yeah, I would never make that mistake now, but back then, it didn't even occur to me. So I wore like a short sleeve button shirt and then like these kind of like, I don't know, they're Levi's but not jeans, they're like pants. Untucked shirt, button down, short sleeves.
No, I think we got clothing down. Proceed.
And a wife beater underneath. And, and I didn't shave, so I had like a little bit of stubble. Not a lot, but let's say like two Indian man days worth. And then the subway line that I had to take to get to the interview was like under construction, so I was like, fuck, I'm gonna be late. So I got off the train and got onto the street and like hailed a cab, and I was already running late, and I got to the place and I was about 3 minutes late for my interview, not in a suit, with stubble. And you had to go up to like the whatever floor for the interview, and I went up, and then right as the elevator door opened, a man was standing there saying, "Are you Vinay?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's not good." And then I went into the wait. They're like, "They're ready for you now, but if you need some time, you can wait in the waiting room." So I went into the waiting room, and I was like, "Oh no," because everyone was wearing a suit, and I was like, "Oh, of course, this is one of those things that you're supposed
to interview for a job. I heard about this. I saw that episode of Friends. Oh, I should have known this."
I think part of the problem was that I'd never had like a suit kind of job before. You know, like I always had like weird, quirky jobs until that point. So, at any rate, I felt like I aced the interview when I got the job. So it was pretty easy. I mean, I think they're just trying to. The main thing they want to know is that you're like someone who can adapt to a foreign culture. I think is the main thing they're looking for. So, okay. Any other questions? When the JET contract runs out, how do you find another job to stay in Japan? I mean, you just look for a job. It's like anything. Like,
like once you're in the country, it's easy to do interviews. The problem is it's very difficult to interview for a job at a small school or a small program if you live in New York City, because it's quite expensive to fly here to interview for it. Like once you're already in the country, then you have time to like shop around and look around. So
there's one concern with like a visa, because the visa is like a 3-year maximum. So it's either 1 year or 3 years. So if you got a 3-year when you came in, you would if you were on the JET program. Then if you did the full 3 years and you wanted to get another job, you'd have to get another job and get them to sponsor your visa renewal before, you know. So you have to do that ahead of time. You can't just like let your visa run out and then look for a job. But
I just answer it. I love teaching. I think teaching is great. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bullshit on the internet, slagging off teachers in Japan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that just the job in general suffers from one thing, and that's it's especially in the Eikawa system. A lot of people who really don't want to teach, they just want to come to Japan.
Yeah.
And so they come here to do that. Many of them having their first time ever having a job, the boss, at a time they have to be at work.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of like I mentioned getting drunk before important things a lot, but like I'm very good. You know, I'm not like a fuck up when it comes to work and stuff. And like, but there are a lot of like English teachers, even ALTs too, not just Eikaiwa teachers, but who are just like alcoholic sleazebags.
And but part of it is though, I think,
who like try to sleep with their students.
But even the ones who are like really want to be teachers get frustrated after a while because it can be very soul draining because it takes so long to see improvement in students, and you get so many students that don't have any kind of like, they're not really trying to get better. So I think a lot of teachers who were good get discouraged, and then there's plus a large percentage of the teachers to begin with who don't even want to be teaching at all. And so unfortunately they've given what should otherwise be a very noble profession a bad name.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest, like I decided a long time ago that I wasn't gonna worry. Like basically, of course I want my students to improve, but like I feel like the system is designed in such a way that it's like makes it really hard for it to happen. Incredibly and I feel like that's not my responsibility.
Especially in the ALT situation, because you have so little control in the end.
Although now that I'm in elementary school, it's the first time I've been doing it for like a year. It's like a lot better because the kids are really young, they learn really quickly. You know, you have like... Ever had an interesting question from what you mean, like how big is your cock? Like, I've had those questions.
I've had an interesting question from a student. There is not a question that has gone unasked, I don't think.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of what memorable ones were.
Well, like when you're teaching kids, like sometimes like there's this thing called Kanto.
Oh god, yeah.
Which
Kanto.
it literally means enema, but what it is like kids come behind you and they make this kind of hand. And then they stick it up your butt crack.
Yeah.
It's like a big, hilarious joke.
It's I guess it's the 5-year-old wedgie. 5-year-old's version of a wedgie.
Yeah, but they do it to adults, which is
but they do it to adults, Crazy. Well, unfortunately, this is another thing. This is just me, you know, armchair bitching about societal things in Japan. But it's couples have, if any children at all, they've got one. And personally, I feel the larger your family, the less likely you are to be a dick. And so every single kid born in Japan is this little prince or princess that their parents cherish. And so they're growing up, this new generation are going to be insufferable when they get older because they've got grandparents and parents and all of them got money and, you know, they can do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I mean, family of 5, your kid starts, like, crying on the bus. Like, you've given him something to cry about, you know? It's very different, you know, I think. The kids who are growing up now in Japan, they're so...
Do you have siblings?
Whiny. Yeah, I have an older brother. But like I remember when I was teaching, like kids, I taught Nova kids. God, it was horrible. And it's like, the kids would run unchecked, you know, completely. And the parents were just like, oh, isn't he so cute? It's like, no, that's not cute. Yeah, this kid's gonna turn into being a nightmare.
I've had like both experience. Like, you know, I've definitely seen kids who are like out of control, and like it seems like the parents and the teachers have no clue how to keep them disciplined.
Yeah.
But then in general, I find
like, they have to clean the school, and there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, like, you know, they have all these rituals in elementary school that they have to, you know, and there's this whole idea of like, you know, your class and like making sure you're not like doing something to disturb the harmony of the class, you know.
No, there is that overwhelming factor, but I think that's now at war with this, like,
spoiled.
The specialness of these, you know, spoiled, like, single.
I have this one kid, and I had to teach him today actually, and he's like a nightmare out of control. To the point where like he's in this class, but like he usually can't participate because he's just running around. It's a third grade class, no, second grade, so they're about 6, 7 years old, and so he has he usually is in his own classroom with a teacher whose job it is just to like take care of him. But sometimes he comes and joins the class, and so they tried to have him join the class today. And he runs all over the school. He'll just like go into the teacher's staff room and just start like taking things and throwing them, going to people, and like they never like force him to stop.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's not good.
And they like laugh when he does something, funny. I mean, I laugh to myself, but I don't let him see me laugh.
I think the problem is that I just hate children, except if perhaps they were my own. Like I would love my children, and any other people's children. I don't have time for.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he wasn't like diagnosable with ADD. This kid.
Something.
I don't know how big that whole thing is here. It's huge in America, but like it's way.
So Moore's clarifying his thing, not graphic questions that might seem borderline offensive, but he or she is just curious. But I've had both, like where
you get that with like adults, Japanese people.
Adults. Yeah, we're being. I've had some who were being intentionally offensive.
Yeah,
like with their questions. But other ones like just really actually don't know. Like there's a lot of that, especially with race issues. Like they don't know any better than to say something because it's not a heterogeneous society.
Yeah, there's things that are not taboo here that are taboo back at home.
Yeah, like talking about your bowel condition, for example. It's spring to the joke. I don't know if everyone gets that joke. I totally get it. But it's like everyone like, so hey, Osama, how are you doing? Oh, I have very bad diarrhea today. All morning I have been, it's just flowing out. And you're like, oh, okay. That's not something we talk about generally.
Also, like people talk about like drunkenness more openly, like at work and stuff. They're like, I was so drunk last night. I'm hungover. Like you'll say to your students, "How are you today?" Adult students, and they'll say like, "I have hungover." Which you would never do back home.
I don't think you would be like spreading that around so much. So there's different like taboos on what people say. And
I had a girl ask me today, but again, she's just like a little, like a 7-year-old, so it's like forgivable. I mean, it's forgivable anyways. I never get upset by this stuff, but little kids in any country will ask like kind of forward questions. But she said to me, Vinay, why do all foreigners have eyes that stick out? And I think she was just looking at mine because my eyes stick out more than most.
Mine are pretty buggy too. I think we both have, and we're thin. I think we both have like hyperthyroid issues. But I don't know, like I'm trying to think of a good example. Like I remember it was like a week after 9/11, and I had some douchebag student ask me like, are you surprised that this happened? I mean, you've got military bases all over the world. I'm just like, really? Now? Yeah. In the group chat room, we gotta ask the guy from New York. Yeah. That really? Like,
it's just that's probably the case of just an individual who's like
he was about it. No, he was like, and I knew the guy, because I talked to him a number of times. He was like he was gloating essentially about 9/11 because he was.
Because I think I got that from maybe like Europeans and stuff.
Yeah,
but maybe not the day after.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I can understand like a couple years later talking about it in context, but like it's been a week, dude. Seriously, you're already gonna go there?
I remember I moved to Japan probably at the same time, like a month before.
But also, I would just say to go back to the taboo thing. There's like I guess 5 basic questions which everybody asks, and they just come up so much. This makes up like half the material for comedy talking about shit like this. But it's do you like Japanese girls? Can you eat natto? Why did you come to Japan? What else is there? How long will you stay in Japan?
Yeah. Do you have a girlfriend? Are you married?
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't actually. Those are things.
Oh, how old are you?
Yeah.
How old are you? But like all of these, for one reason or another, like tend to be extremely irritating questions and can, for a lot of guys, rub us the wrong way. And it's always this issue of like, either do we accept these questions as just, just accept it,
Well, I find it's
You know,
always
for example,
useful
like
to
the,
be
do you like Japanese girls question? Like, how are you supposed to answer that question?
Yeah.
What possible way do you answer that question? You say, oh yes, I think they're very beautiful. Now I have just admitted that I am a pervert who has come here to have sex with Japanese women. Or you say, no, I find Korean women far more attractive.
I prefer Chinese and Korean women.
Exactly.
I think North Korean women are the hottest.
Exactly. It's just, the question is like, I don't know like what the appropriate response to that question is, and I would say, well, not particularly more than any other race is response, but it's just an irritating, and it's a question that comes up sometimes like within like the first minute of having met somebody.
Yeah, I feel like all these questions are just like, they're kind of like icebreakers in a way. They just want to like ask you a question, and the answer is not even that important.
Yeah.
And there's like a standard answer for most of these questions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
and every guy
so I
knows
just say,
what we're supposed to say,
yeah.
and they know the question's supposed to
If
ask.
they say, do you like Japanese girls? I say, yes, I do. Yeah. And then that's it. And then it's conversation over.
And then, can you eat?
Yeah, sometimes I say I like all women.
Can you like?
Except I hate Slovenians. But besides Slovenians,
I actually don't like Indian women. I think we've had this argument before.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I said I understand that there are some in Bollywood, but I like if you said, hey dude, I've got this great Indian porn site, I would not need that link.
I personally am
not want that link.
I don't have a thing for
Wouldn't want to see
women,
that.
because for me I have a weird thing because like I think we talked about this, but
I think we did, yeah.
I think there are definitely beautiful Indian women, like lots of them. And when Indian women are beautiful,
Like that woman from the millionaire dog whatever thing.
yeah, Frida.
She's a looker.
Frida Kanto.
Yeah.
She's from where my family's from.
Nice.
Anyway, but yeah, when Indian women are like good looking, they're like really gorgeous. But every time I see an Indian woman, she reminds me of my sister or my cousins or my aunts, and it just feels incestuous. I can't I've never been like especially.
I guess you didn't have a lot of Indian friends who were female.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
That would be why. Interesting. Back to question.
But also, yeah, I don't want to get too specific because I want to like insult a race.
Are flying robots the #1 threat concerning Japanese citizens? No, I mean, yeah, I mean it is a concern. It's an issue, but the government has Mothra defense plans and things like that.
I think flying
Godzilla action plans
are more of a concern.
Well, the actual things here, what cancer I think kills probably 3 Japanese. I think cancer is the #1 cause of death for Japanese people.
Yeah, I don't know.
Smoking.
Well, the birth rate is still declining.
Yeah.
So
Hey, we're doing what we can.
I think all guys will get this.
Yeah. No, you do. You just get asked every question. And
the big ones are can you
and
stop
you know,
sexting
and you
me?
can you can feel, you can sense when the person's doing it because they're being a dick or they're just they seriously want to know. And actually I've had some like amazing conversations with people who openly said that they hate Americans, but were very cordial and interesting conversations. Like so it's I've had a variety of what I would term interesting conversations.
Yeah, I feel like if you do come here, like you're best off just like taking everything like just being accepting.
Yeah.
Don't be too sensitive.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't be too sensitive.
Like even with someone, I can't think of an example right now. If someone asked me like a horrible question, I wouldn't like act enraged or anything. I'd just be like, oh. Maybe I'd even just answer it like in the simplest way possible.
I tend to, I just let it slide past more and more. Because if you get angry about a little shit like that, you just don't live as long, I don't think.
One thing I do though, I get annoyed, and this is actually not fair of me to get annoyed, but like sometimes at bars, like people come up to me and try to speak English to me.
Yeah.
And like drunk Japanese guys usually it's
I had this last week. I was trying to watch the Syracuse was playing West Virginia. And I went down to the hub. I'm all excited, been waiting all day to watch it. I get there, get my drink. I got the game on. I get through one drink, most of the first quarter. I go up to the bar to get another drink. On the way back, at the bar, this Japanese dude asked me, what does this mean?
That's a good question. That's an interesting question.
I watch the show Friends all the time, and I see them using it all the time. What does this mean? And I was kind of taking it off. I was like, okay, well,
That's a weird thing to go and ask a stranger.
Actually, that's a good question, but I guess I'm the only one here right now. So I explained it. He's like, "Oh, thank you very much." And after I explained it in full, I realized, oh shit, no, yeah, and where this goes.
Bigger.
And so
the street
I go back to my seat, and like literally 3 minutes out of the corner of my eye, I can see him like crouching tiger, hidden dragon in his way over towards my table.
Yeah.
He's like, "Excuse me, I don't want to be rude, and I don't want to interrupt you. You seem to be alone. Is it okay if me and my friend sit here? And we have many questions we'd like to ask you about America." And I'm like, "I'm watching the basketball game, but yeah, you're free if you sit here. Maybe I can answer. But I'm kind of watching the basketball game." "Oh yes. And then the two of them sat down, and they would not shut the fuck up for like the rest of the thing. I barely got to, because the screen was here and his fat stupid head was here, and so
they're getting annoyed by the troll.
All right, now it's gonna have to. This takes like 5 seconds to.
Cat fucker.
Yeah, and he has like 1,000 accounts, and he thinks he's really clever because he can just keep logging in as another account.
What a strange form of amusement.
And I have to. I know. It's
talking about it is just feeding it. So.
Exactly. That's why I know just to ignore it, but they start commenting on it, which fuels it.
You need to hire some moderators, apparently.
I am.
Hire some people.
I am. No, you can deputize people.
Oh, right. Gotcha. But yeah, so like, the thing is, like, I'm a social person. I love talking to people. I love like talking to strangers at bars and stuff.
Yeah, I do too. But it's unfortunate they don't get subtle hints.
Yeah, and also when it's just like they're trying to get almost like a free Eikai lesson.
Yeah, that can be another thing too. Like
the one thing that I have a pet peeve for, and like I said, it's not fair of me, is when drunk guys come and talk to me in a bar. Normally, I'm happy to talk to anybody, but like if they come talk to me just because they want to like say something in English, but they can't like even put together a simple sentence in English, then I just like have. It's not that I have no patience for it, but I always play a game with them, and it's like really cruel. But like basically, a person will come up to me and they'll be like, "Where you are from country?"
Yeah.
And I just look at them like I have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then I'll say like I'll speak Japanese. They'll be like, "Sorry, what?" And they'll be like, "Where you are from country?" And I'll like go to their friend and be like, in Japanese, "What is he saying? I have no idea. What language is he speaking? I have no idea." And
just cock block him totally on the.
Yeah. And then they're saying he wants to know what country you're from, and I say, "Oh," and then this is all in Japanese. I say, "Oh, I'm from America," and the guy goes,
"Yeah." That's a good deflection technique.
It's so mean.
It's pretty cold.
I do it all the time.
The people who want like a free lesson, and again that too. I know when someone genuinely just wants to talk, just because they want to talk, and when someone just like, "Oh, this is an excellent opportunity for me to practice my English speaking skills."
Yeah,
that can be irritating.
And also, I'm kind of selfish. I prefer speaking Japanese to Japanese people because it's better for me.
Yeah, no, I always, of course, I even have had a policy of like only dating women that don't speak English. I
wouldn't say I have that policy per se, but I don't like, there's a lot of Japanese women who speak English who are like, the reason they speak English is because they're like a gaijin hunter.
Yeah.
And I have no interest in those kind of people. But it has worked out that pretty much. Well, actually, I did date one girl who spoke English, but we never spoke English together.
Interesting.
But yeah, like basically with my Japanese friends and or girlfriends, we generally speak Japanese all the time. But if I can tell that they speak English well and they want to practice it a little bit, it's not fair of me to monopolize the like by opinion, so I'll like speak English with them sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know, like with let's go back to questions.
What's the strangest moment you've had living in Japan? That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
There's so many.
know.
I don't even like.
And that's, they've asked me this question a number of times, and I never come up with anything good. I know that there's tons of shit, I'm sure. I just can never.
It's like basically my first 3 years in Japan, it was like almost a daily occurrence to have something bizarre happen that was like strange to me. I don't even remember what they are anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is going back to someone was at like I was talking about the Kanto thing. This is not the most bizarre thing that's happened to me, but it was funny and weird. The first, like I only been in Japan for like a week, I think, or maybe 2 weeks, and I was in Iwate and met up with a few of the Jets to go out to an izakaya. And after we were done eating, we were standing on the street outside of the izakaya, and there was a few drunk people, like they were guys in their 20s, I guess. And one of them came up to me, and he looked at me, and he was just amazed. And then he started like feeling my chest hair. And now I wouldn't even like blink if that happened. But at the time, I was like, "What the?" I mean, I laughed. I thought, I didn't get angry, but like I was just like, he was just because I have like an abundance of Indian man chest hair that sticks out of the top of my collar.
I've gotten that a number of times from elderly Japanese men. You are very handsome. It's like I don't know what to do with that. Really, that's just weird.
So he was like stroking my hair, and then he said something in Japanese, and then one of the Jets who spoke Japanese said, "She wants to know if you have hair like that all over." And then I said, and I just started studying Japanese, so I said one of the few words, and I said, "Hey, arimasu." Yes, I do.
That's awesome.
And then he started like stroking my chest, and then he grabbed my package.
Nah, it did happen. Now you're lying.
No, I've had my package grabbed so many times. I'm mainly in Japan.
Really? That's not happened to me. What is the statistical odds on it happening to you many times and 0 to me?
Well, I mean, most people
does that
say
say
about
about
us and them too. I must say something about you. Then. I think you're the odd duck here.
Could be. It could be me.
But no, maybe they're you're tall and you're white, so they assume you have a giant cock. So they
That's true.
So they are just intimidated.
Yeah, that could be.
I'm Indian, so I'm not intimidated.
Wait, no,
We Indians have small penises.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. I've actually heard that story from other guys. I've heard stories of being guys that got groped by people on the train. Like it's not nearly the issue as it is for teen Japanese girls, but it does exist.
Yeah, and also like foreign women sometimes get their boobs felt by other women, like suddenly, a female Japanese friend of that, and then like go, "Wow, your boob," and then just like. That motion there.
What is the biggest cultural mistake you have made? This is recent, but I had a setai on Friday night, like a business meeting with bosses of mine going out to dinner, and I picked out this little restaurant that I'd never actually been there before, and I walked in with my shoes on, which is a very small thing, but it's just like, God, I've been here fucking 9 years.
Yeah.
You'd think like I would like get permanently used to it, and like it also is with my bosses as well, which is not great to look like a dweeb in that sense.
The cool thing about Japanese people is like they don't freak out when a foreigner makes a cultural faux pas because they kind of expect it, even if that's not fair exactly. But like you get a lot of leeway for being a foreigner. So like they'll laugh and they'll tell you what you should have done properly.
And thanks moms for dealing this douchebag. He's just gonna keep coming back until I guess he gets tired. But just don't like talk about him or to him. There's no point. Thank you guys for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other cultural mistakes I've made. Definitely, I remember when I first moved, I had a shoe thing where I got invited to one of the English teachers at my high school. He invited me to his house for dinner my first night in my town. And I just remember I got into their house and I knew I was supposed to take off my shoes in the genkan, in the entryway, but I didn't know that like basically I climbed up onto the ledge before I to take my shoes off there. But as soon as I climbed up, they like ran and freed. They're like, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I know.
but I can't think of any huge culture.
Yeah, I've never done. I mean, 'cause to be honest, like I remember on the plane coming over, I was reading this little book of etiquette. Well, actually, it wasn't a book. It was the Lost, the mini backpacker's guide for Tokyo, and there's like a section there on etiquette, and they had all the stupid stuff in there, like don't put your chopsticks in a bowl of rice.
Yeah. Why would you ever do that?
Exactly. Don't point things with your chopsticks. Don't use your hand towel to clean your body. Use the opposite side of the chopsticks. You know, and
Which
you know
is
what?
kind of BS.
And you know, yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like all of the things they had written in there within the first month, I had seen Japanese people doing.
I don't know about the I think
No, that was
kind of bad.
Yeah, because I don't think. but I don't know anyone who ever does that.
Yeah.
Like, why would you be like, I can't think of a place to put my chopsticks, so I'm just going to put them upright in this rice.
Tom Selleck does it in Mr. Baseball.
Yeah, that's true. That's an irrefutable point. You sir,
Not a bad movie, actually.
you sir are a formidable opponent. No, but seriously, I mean, it's like most of I think there's too much paranoia put into people before they get here that they're going to commit some like horrible crime against the Japanese people, and that they're going to have to slit their stomach open because of this horrible thing that they've done. But honestly, the Japanese don't care.
Yeah.
Like they really don't care. Like in fact, like one time I was having dinner with some friends. I was using the opposite side of the chopsticks, and they specifically instructed me to stop doing that.
Yeah, basically amongst friends and young people don't really do it anymore. Like super polite people will still do it, but it's not standard.
And pouring the drinks thing, you know. But and also most of the etiquette rules like kind of don't apply to foreigners. Like for example, pouring drinks. The only situation in which you or I would be pouring the drink is if our direct boss were in the room.
Well, if you're at like an Enkai with a group of people and there's like big bottles of beer,
but no one's expecting of you that kind of understanding.
It's not your specific
it's not your
responsibility. But generally, if you're close to the person who has an empty glass, you should pour it.
So no, actually, what I'm trying to say more is you're not walking on eggshells culturally. There are no eggshells because they assume that you do not understand any of the cultural things. It would be almost impossible for you to actually upset a Japanese person with a cultural faux pas.
Right.
It's unimaginable to me.
Yeah, and it's like
they would just be like, oh, well, he's a foreigner. Of course, he would do that.
Anything that you would need to know, you don't need to learn before you get here. You learn it when you get here. Like people will politely explain it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like the first time you do it, like someone will say, oh yeah, by the way, no, we didn't do that. You know, like but no one would ever be like, oh my God, she has put a shoe on the sacred tatami of my home. I must do the cleansing ritual and disembowel myself. You know, it's none of the rules are really that serious. You know.
What was the hardest thing to adapt to? That's another common question. What's the hardest thing to adapt to? It's tough for me to answer because, like, I think of myself as very adaptable. Like, I just kind of like adapt to everything.
Yeah.
But I guess one thing I really have trouble with still in Japan, even after 8.5 years here, is the way, like, for example, when you're at a job. If someone has a complaint about you, it's the way the chain of command works. And this is in all sectors of Japanese society, not just jobs.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with this.
It's like there's one person who's responsible for 2 or more people, a group, and then there's another person above that person, another person. And basically, like, say if I work for a private company, I'm an ALT in a school, if the teachers who work at my school, like the Japanese teachers who work with me, they have either a complaint or a suggestion or something they want me to do different or want to discuss with me, they will talk to the vice principal of the school. Then the vice principal of the school will call my company. And then my company will call me and tell me about it. Yeah. And it would just like save so much time and energy and also be less embarrassing. If they just talk to me.
You just say it to you.
And usually it's something minor, you know. And then also with the fact that this doesn't really involve me so much, but something I noticed in Japanese society that obviously it's a huge fundamental cultural difference, but the way that like you're like responsible for your subordinates' actions.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's an excellent point. About popular demand, the question about alien registration cards, which is interesting because like your alien registration card, and this will tie into the question, I'll get to it eventually, but like they have the name of your company, who you work for, on your alien registration card, because if you get arrested, the first thing they do is contact your company and say, we're holding like one of your employees.
That's crazy.
And like when they explained that to me, like at the first day of on-the-job training at work, I was like, wait, what? Like what right does the police have to contact my employer? You know, but it's assumed. Like so, if you get like, for example, if you got accused of molesting some girl on the train, like you are really kind of shocked because like one of the first phone calls the police department is going to make is to your company to say we're holding Kenji
for molestation.
And even if like the police let you go, like it's kind of hard to walk back into that office and be like, hey guys, turns out it was a mix-up, so that was weird just in general. But for us, we're required to carry the cards and that they be properly updated at all times. I've personally never been stopped without my card, so I don't know. I've heard from other people that depending on the situation, generally, they'll do one of two things: just let you go, or two, ask you where it is and then take you there. The other possibility is they might take you to a hold you at the Koban and have someone like your roommate or someone like that bring your card to the Koban.
If you lost your wallet, obviously that's something you can't help, and the worst thing that would happen is you would have to take them to where you have your passport and show them that you have a valid visa. And that would be enough. But I have, I get stopped and asked for my ID a lot, and I every time I get stopped, I heard, by the way, Cloudy says that if technically according to the law, they can only ask you to show your ID if they suspect you of committing a crime.
Yes, that's true.
So you can refuse.
You can refuse. Well, the thing is, no, you absolutely can refuse. But they can also take that refusal as then a suspicion of a criminal act, and then officially take you to the Koban. So, like, the question you have to do the math is whether or not you're willing to risk the chance that these officers have enough free time and desire to actually take you back to their police station, hold you, question you, make your life a hell for the next 12 to 24 hours. So...
Well, but if you have a passport...
so most people are just like, that I know, just like, okay, here's a card, Some people do put up, like, a whole little...
I get in an argument most times. Depends on my mood at the time.
Yeah, for me, it's a mood-based.
If I'm in a bad mood, then I will just, like... I always end up showing it to them eventually, but... But I remember one time...
there's a whole pre-speech before they get the card. So, like, I know that I'm going to show it to them, but we're going to go through... We're going to take a little walk through Candyland to get there.
Why did you select me to... what was it that...
I tried to go through the rationale. They stopped me once to just a Shibuya crossing. And I was like, okay, so why are you stopping me? And they gave the reason I was wearing sunglasses. I looked suspicious. It was the sunglasses. At least that's a reason. Not the skin tone, And then, like, I took them over to, it was right by Hachiko. It's just over, kind of, where Sakura is. Anyway, I say, look, let's go over. Let's go. Come with me. Come with me. Look here. See these guys in the long trench coats with the slicked hair? What are they doing? Can you help me with that?
Wait, you didn't do this, did you?
Yeah, to the police officers. I was like, can you actually go talk to those guys? I'd like to, because since you said it was random, I'd like you to go and talk to one of those guys and see what they're doing. Because they're actually, work touts that are not directly Yakuza related, vaguely. And they're operating, and they have a big loudspeaker at Shibuya Station playing in Japanese an announcement that says, beware of street con artists and stuff like that. But it's like, he's right there. That's him. That's one of them right there.
but they just blast this message on a loudspeaker over Shibuya Crossing. But then they harass like foreigners just walking around.
The thing that really annoys me the most is when like I go to the cops to ask them for like directions.
Yeah.
And then they ask me for my ID.
That's irritating.
So then I just like lose it, and I just like go on this whole speech.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the definition of racism, and da, 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 da. And they're like, no, we're not being racist. I'm like, no, that's like, here's the definition of racism, and this is what you did, and they're the same thing. and then so like, I remember this one time I like was going on and on and on, and I was like, I came here to ask you guys for directions, and then, I live in this neighborhood, blah blah blah. And then finally, like they got the manager guy out or whatever they're called, the chief, I don't know what the hell. He came out and he's like, okay, you don't have to show us, you can just go. And I was like, no, I'm going to show you my car. Yeah, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to get out of it. Yeah. So I showed it to them.
No, I've done the same. Like I've tried a similar tactic, and actually, and you know what? Like a couple, I guess I've been stopped. I don't know now, maybe 6 or 7 times. About once a year I get stopped. But like, there's 1 or 2 guys that were not dicks about it. Somehow, they just handled the situation in such a way that I didn't feel like threatened, or like I didn't feel picked upon. And they were nice about it.
I had a guy,
but then there was other people that were specifically being like dicks about it. Like and for some reason maybe I just have a.
I think the majority of them don't think they're being dicks when they do.
No, I think they're just doing they're doing their job.
Yeah. But I remember one time I got stopped by a guy and asked for ID, and then I was in a bad mood already that day, and I just went off, just like blah 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 blah. And then he was like so apologetic. He was like, I'm so sorry. I'm new to the job. We were told we're supposed to do this. He was like a young guy, and he was like, bowing. He's like, I'm so sorry.
I'm sure they have quotas and stuff as well.
I was like, and then I felt bad. I didn't eventually even show my ID. I was like, he's like, I'm so sorry to have bothered you. I didn't mean to. And then I felt bad. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. My favorite one was I had a wicked hangover, and so I was just like walking around like the block, like it was like literally like block 2 blocks from my house, but it's like I was gonna go take a walk around like the block, get some fresh air, and I probably looked like I was like fucking on heroin or something like that. I did not look good. And this cop came up, he's like, excuse me, case I'm like, dude, I live like 2 blocks away. I just got a wicked hangover.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh really? Like, he's like, I'm really sorry. I know you don't feel good right now, but I just if you could take a second. And I'm like, yeah, okay, here. Then he's like, you know what you should do? You should try Solamac. They have this convenience store, this little green bottle, and he's like, you gonna be okay? I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. He's like, soba. And it was a nice little exchange.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's cool. But anyway, but then, do you read Japan Probe at all?
No.
All right. Nah, I don't want to get to it. Let's get me angry.
They ask in Japanese.
Yeah, they ask in Japanese generally. Yeah.
But they might say something. They might say like ID please.
Yeah, in English. Yeah. It's good to know that the Japanese modern Tokyo Police Department was formed out of the remnants of the Japanese Army. So it's, I think that established a certain tone for several decades. And so depending on the age of the officer, you're going to get a different reaction probably. I think age is a big mediating factor in like the attitude of the officer in question. I think it's the younger ones are a different police force than the guys who are in their 50s.
Yeah. What if you don't? Is it hard to get around at first?
Do you want a drink break? Just give me a black coffee.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Is it hard to get around at first since you can't speak Japanese? No, it's not. Japan is amazingly, considering that very few people speak English to an acceptable level. It's really easy to get around, even if you don't speak. Especially in Tokyo or a big city. Tokyo, big cities, no problem because everything's posted in English. Like it's just really easy to get around. The countryside might be a little bit more difficult, but the people are so helpful and friendly that it's usually not a problem. Besides comedy, what else do you do? Yeah, I mean, my main job is I'm an English teacher, and I'm just gonna move over here. I'm an English teacher, but yeah, I do comedy on the side and a little bit of acting, I guess. I don't know, I want to do more of that stuff, but are you surprised by the near lack of crime in Japan? It's definitely like extremely low here. I don't know if I'm surprised by it, but it's like it's really cool. Like now that I've been here for so long, I'm used to it. When I go back to America, it's like, I never thought of America as like a scary or dangerous place, but now I feel like it's a little bit dangerous comparatively, and I kind of wish that more places were more like Japan in that respect. Like everybody.
Actually, there's one other thing I was going to mention.
I didn't order anything yet.
One extension of the whole alien registration card thing that's getting kind of freaky, and this is like, for me, this is way beyond the line. Recently, I don't know if you heard about this, they've been at like early hours of the morning, like 4 or 5 in the morning, stopping people coming out of clubs in like bars and clubs in Roppongi, Azabu, that area, and taking on-the-spot urine tests from them.
Really?
Yeah.
Honestly?
Yes.
That's not you. Like
It's not a joke.
It's not
No. So like,
similar to you.
I know. So when I first heard it too, I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're working on that for a bit." But like seriously, like just drug tests, obviously. It's ever since what's the freaking name? Nori P.
Nori P.
Yeah, there was a drug scandal with a starlet here, and so recently that's big in the news.
Yeah, they've been kind of like sort of cracking down on drugs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's just like,
But
I'm
their
sorry,
drug laws are so
random
draconian.
urine. I mean, first of all, I don't go out anymore. I'm lame. I'm old and lame, so I don't go to clubs anymore. So I don't care.
Yeah.
And I can understand to some extent. Okay, if you're gonna be checking urine samples at like 5 a.m. in Roppongi, there's this small part of me that can just barely kind of hold on to their rationale for it.
Right.
There's some slim fragment of it.
Yeah.
But if it was like any like normal times of day and places around the city, and it's signaling out foreigners specifically for urine tests, like because that is so fucking humiliating. Like if you've been in a club in Roppongi all night, okay, that by itself is a suspicious act.
Yeah, it's almost a crime.
Realistically, I mean, because there are some sketchy people in that area.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, but thank God it's been limited to that. But I mean, it's like, was there cases of police state shit like that? That's scary. That's when I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't want to live in a country like where I'm singled out as a potential criminal based on
Yeah, if I'm out at a club, it's not going to be at Roppongi, so that's okay. And also, it's been forever since I put anything illicit into my system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I'm not ruling it out for the future. But
it's just that just personally, I think that's it's amazing.
Do they like Brazilians or white people more? Everybody likes white people more. Next question.
No, everyone likes Brazilians more.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. And many Brazilians are white people, so I'm not sure I understand the question. Sexism in Japan. Actually, did you know that China and North Korea both have more female executives of companies percentage than Japan? Japan has the lowest, not the lowest, maybe lowest or the second lowest percentage of female executives in the world. So, yeah, I think there's still quite a glass ceiling here.
Do they allow you to l'autre in their restaurant long after you've finished your meal?
Yeah, well, this place is mostly.
This is like a cafe.
Yeah,
You can just hang out.
It's why the coffee's $5.
Weirdest drink you've had in Japan?
Actually, there's a question I just wanted to answer.
what was that? Prison.
Sexism. Not difficult.
Oh yeah, the weirdest drink you ever had. You ever had mamashi?
No. I don't think
Mamashi. That's definitely the weirdest drink I've ever had. It's shochu, which is just like a kind of grain alcohol, and they put an entire dead, I think, poisonous snake in the bottle, and then let it sit for like, I don't know.
Maybe I
a
did
decade.
have this in like
Let it sit for a decade or so, and then you drink it as a shooter, like shots.
What did you call it?
Mamashi? Well, Mamashi is the name of the snake.
Oh, I had
I guess it'd be
something like
Mamashi
that
Shooter.
in Okinawa.
I think, yeah, Mamashi. Yeah, it's Okinawan and Kyushu.
Yeah, and I had something like that in Vietnam.
But like in the bar, there's just like this huge glass bottle
Yeah.
with like this dead snake in it, and you drink? Yes.
You drink good, it's good, yes, you like.
It's strong. コーヒーください。ブラックコーヒー一つ。Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Seriously, how long take this long to order a drink? It's not hard.
Yeah. アイスティーはありますか？はい。アイスティーお願いします。The weirdest drink I ever had. Not exact. I mean, I don't know if it's technically a drink or not, but I drank it. It was at an Enkai, like a school party when I was working in Iwate with the English teachers. It was a big school, so there was like about 7 or 8 English teachers. So we all had a party at a restaurant. And they just bring out lots of food throughout the night and you just eat it and drink and drink. And then towards the end of the night, they started placing, the waiter came in and started placing all of these glasses on the opposite end of the table for me. And from where I looked at the glasses and it looked like it had ice in it that was melting. Like it was kind of going, and so they started putting one in front of every person. And when they put the glass in front of me, I discovered that it was a glass of liquid, like a yellowish liquid, with like dozens of tiny fish swimming in it. And then everybody just had to down them like that.
That's like something that should be the bar on Babylon 5, not a work party.
So
My God.
I drank that. It tasted like salt, and I don't know if it was my imagination, but I felt like I could feel them swimming around inside of me.
Hey Kira, sorry to hear that. Yeah, no, that's weird. And also, I've seen sick things with turtles and frogs as well. They could, like, frog hearts and turtle hearts and shit like that could always end up in a shot of liquor. You never really know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a number of things like that are frightening. But personally, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah,
The thing I've been trying to find this for years. I've asked so many people, I've researched it. I've gone to places that allegedly specialize in it, and the staff refused and said that no one makes it, no one does it. I actually saw a TV show a long time ago that they found some place that did it. But what they do is it's called, it's called Yanagawa Nabe, and it's a block of tofu in cold water in a big steel like pot or clay pot, and live fish, loaches, which are dojo in Japanese, swimming around in the water in the tofu. They're like think of them as like mini eels, and then they turn on the heat on the little pot, and the water slowly heats up, and then the eels like drive themselves into the tofu because it's colder, and then die cooked alive inside the tofu. But I just this would be the greatest YouTube video ever. Like I have to find this. But the problem is apparently it might be an urban legend, or it has been done. But I don't think. What type of dinner would you be having that you could have a conversation while that was going on?
Yeah.
Like that's definitely not a date meal. that's basically the only time that's appropriate as a meal is if you are plotting to overthrow like the government and you wanted to use it as a metaphor or something in your plan.
It would probably be just way easier to like just take the fish out of the water so they die and then insert them into the tofu.
Or something like that, yeah, exactly.
But way less fun.
And actually, I've heard there are places that do it. This is true. There are places that do this dish, but they don't do it at the table. They cook it like in the kitchen, and then they bring it out when it's done. And so you can get yanagawa nabe. It's on a lot of menus, but it's these little loaches and egg and tofu kind of all mixed together, but it's not living. That's pretty fucking crazy if that's real.
I saw this thing they eat in Korea. I saw it on TV in Japan, where it's like they have this grill that they put on the table, like, but it's like kind of like mountain shaped, so it rises to like kind of a peak in the middle of the grill. It's all metal and it's all warm. It's like a hot plate. But, and then they take a live octopus and then just drop it on the top. And the octopus is like, and then they eat it.
Yeah, I've seen like up at Hokkaido they do that too with some like squid and octopus, still moving, living, sucking things. Like so, it's like it's on your bowl, and then when you kakeru, you put on the soy sauce. It kind of like wakes up, it reacts to the soy sauce and starts moving. Like okay, that dish I was talking about is called yanagawa nabe. But actually, I've heard sometimes the word were used to. This normal kind of dish using loaches and tofu, and then it's also I've heard there's a live version of it,
right?
As opposed to the unplugged version.
Right. The rockin' version.
The rockin' version. It's like rock and roll. Later played son.
So these are regular.
I guess many of them are repeat. That's why I feel bad because I've run out of stories.
What? I'm being seasoned?
I have everything that Uncle Kevin has imparted all of the wisdom he has to offer, which is why I bring lovely people like you here. You know. And also, like, I don't know the answers to everything. It's because everyone who comes here, everyone since fucking Kanto Perry has written their book about this place.
His moderators are really like quick.
I know they're good. They're Jedi. Like you get here and your first instinct is to start like assuming an opinion about everything, and like every gaiji's full of opinions,
which is a bad instinct to have.
It is a bad instinct. It's the best to have no opinion about it and just do it, experience it, go with it. But everybody is so full of opinions, and as a result, like you start to forget that there might be other ways of looking at it, and the whole country, the whole experience just becomes kind of like a little sociology paper you're writing in your head, about your neighbors.
I feel like
the interaction becomes like more evidence for the sociology report you're working on in your head.
I feel like there's like different. I feel like I've gone through different levels of like when I first. I feel like when you first move to Japan as a Westerner. There's like no matter what, like obviously you have your kind of cultural assumptions, and then you're confronted with things that don't conform to your cultural assumptions. So your natural instinct is to like criticize or to like say, like to think that you might know better about something. And for me, I was like really tried to avoid being like, I got really annoyed when I first moved here, and there'd be other people like on the jet program or whatever who just complained about everything. I hated that, and I'd just be like, it's a different country, things are gonna be different.
Yeah.
Why did you come here?
I think, and it also goes on to the idea of like culture shock. I had no culture shock when I got here. And I said that to brag because it wasn't gonna be a surprise. I came here looking for culture shock. Yeah. So I was like, oh my god, that's awesome, that's so different than how we do it. And I was eager to find this. It's like the reverse culture, going back for me.
It's like way worse.
It's just way harder.
It's way worse.
Way harder.
Reverse culture shock is like, and the longer I'm here, every time I go back, it's like, it's like so bizarre going back sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
It's like both familiar and totally alien at the same time.
Yeah. It's like I was just pitching to them earlier about Krispy Kreme. And you know, like I'm not sure if this is fact yet. Some people said yes, some people said no. But apparently in Tokyo, there's a 6-donut box of Krispy Kreme, like a half dozen and a dozen. But I believe in America there is no half dozen. I haven't completely validated this yet.
Yeah, it seems weird. It seems like there would be.
Some people said no, some people said yes, I don't know. But just sort of like little things like that, I start going back, and I start like almost, instead of like critiquing Japanese things, I start critiquing American things. Where instead of being, it's like, these water glasses are too small, it becomes, why do Americans eat so much?
Yeah.
You know? And so I find more and more I'm critiquing, American things that were normal to me, rather than Japanese things that were normal to me.
And that's what's weird for me with the reverse culture shock is like, I've been in Japan like long enough now where, so like what I was saying was like, I don't like when people come here and immediately start criticizing everything, because it's kind of this defense mechanism where they want to like think that it's a way to comfort themselves to think that their like culture is superior in a way. I know they don't think about it in those terms, but like it's a way to make themselves feel better.
And it's also a bonding mechanism. Like, I mean, as comedians, like generally the easiest target for us, like I say 95% of my material is about the Japanese people. Like 5% something else. But it's a bonding point. So when you first get to like your first job here, you're probably going to be in a mostly foreign office environment, because like teaching, you're going to be with a bunch of other teachers possibly.
Right.
You know, and so often like you bond on agreeing on how silly it is that the Japanese do that.
Right.
You know, so I think there is a social aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
For like when you walked there, I don't know, like what did you have like a gaijin bar like a couple towns over or something like that where you go and like vent together?
Well, the Jets all got together pretty much every weekend. Like we had a party at a bar or at someone's house.
Okay.
So yeah, we're definitely a very close-knit community.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's almost like the differences between your backgrounds and the local culture then becomes your reason for bonding.
Right. Right. But so, like I was saying, I always like made a point not to like complain about stuff when I first moved here, because like. But now I feel like I've been here so long that like I feel like I know Japanese culture well enough that I'm now allowed to complain about it.
Yeah.
with like real deep knowledge.
No, actually, yeah, too. And it's like if any Japanese person comes back with me, I know more about Tokyo and Japan than most Japanese people do, actually. Yeah. Because I mean, we are actually actively interested in it, whereas most people.
Well, we think about it.
We think about it all the time. Yeah. Like where I'm always reminding people or telling Japanese people about their own holidays and their cultural events and stuff, like that they don't know what I do, strangely. Somebody asked me, I never get deported. I mean, I've seen in newspapers people getting deported, but no one directly in my life has. I've heard stories, and like I've met a guy in a bar, who has a story about how he got, blacklisted once, does that. But you gotta do something pretty stupid.
Yeah, there was a dude in Iwate Jet just the year before I was there who got caught with like growing pot in his apartment. He actually got sent to jail and then got deported. But he was in jail for something like a year, 6 months to a year.
And
he could never come back to Japan, technically. Unless he becomes part of the Beatles, and then he can eventually come back.
Exactly. It's like, was it Ike Turner? There was a blues festival in Japan, and Ike Turner got turned away at Narita Airport because of his criminal record. They're just like, no, I'm sorry. I'm Ike Turner! And like, yeah, you're not Tina Turner. So, back on the plane.
Yeah, well, Paul McCartney technically wasn't allowed to come here, even though he'd already been in the Beatles, but they let him back a few years ago.
Yeah, exactly. There's exceptions in a lot of these rules.
But here's the thing about the reverse culture shock I was going to say, that like now I feel like I can view both Western culture and Japanese culture from kind of a more objective viewpoint.
You're more objective.
When I criticize Japan now, it's not coming from a place where I think Americans do it better.
Yeah.
It's just for me like knowing how things work here and then saying like, wouldn't it be better to? And then there are things that I think Japan does better and things I think America does better. But now when I go back to America, sometimes some of the negative things about Japan I feel like I've taken on myself. Like one thing I love about American culture is how like casually friendly people are with each other.
Yeah, I miss that a lot. That's great. Like when you're just standing on line,
Yeah.
and be like, hey, how about this smell, huh?
Yeah, if you're in a grocery store in line, someone's gonna start talking to you.
Yeah, I miss that.
Or and one thing which I really miss is like if you go to a restaurant in America, basically you always have this kind of friendly, jokey relationship with your waiter or waitress.
Yeah.
In Japan, never.
Yeah.
And very rarely. It's occasionally happens. When it does happen, it's so refreshing.
And I'll specifically try and get them to laugh.
You make a joke and they just like kind of maybe laugh nervously or just like ignore you and then continue. But now when I go back to America, if I'm like somewhere out in public at a store, just walking down the street or somewhere, and someone starts talking to me, I'm like, what am I supposed to say? I like start acting like a Japanese person. I'm just like, I don't know. That's all in my head, and then I'm like, no, get it together. You're American. You can handle this. I'm like, it's been weirdly hot lately, huh?
I've told a story a million times in here, so I'll say it quickly, but yes, I remember going back and having like my first coffee at like a Starbucks or something like that in New York City, and like I ordered the coffee, and she when the woman was over, the whole conversation was filled with this, but she like here you go, baby, and she gives me the coffee. I'm like, did you really just say here you go, baby?
Yeah.
Did you just refer to me, the customer, as baby?
Yeah.
At one level, it was so awesome, but at another level, I was like, don't refer to me as baby. I am the customer. You're the employee. But there was this like Japanese part of me and this amazing American part of me that was like, no problem, sugar. That casual kind of relationship.
Yeah. But here's the thing: is like, 'cause even before I came to Japan, I felt like sometimes the jokes I try to make with like strangers don't always like people like, especially in the suburbs and stuff. People get like I just remember when I went back a few years ago to visit, I was with my family and we went to a restaurant. This was my sister lives in Orange County, in a very nice suburb, and like the waitress came to take our drink orders. And I'm like, yes, I'm back in America. I can joke with the wait staff and blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't even like trying to. Like, she asked my sister what my sister wanted. My sister said, "I'll have a Diet Coke, please." And the waitress said, "And for you?" And I said, "I'll have just a regular Coke." And I wasn't even trying to be funny. Yeah. But I was just kind of like, "Yeah, I'll have just a regular Coke." And then she goes, "Like a regular Coke?" I was like, yeah, well, with sugar, I want sugar in I want lots of sugar. I want a Coke with sugar in it. Yeah. And she was like, so you want a Coke? Yeah. I was like, yes, I want a Coke.
That's right, I understand get for a second there. Yeah, because you don't say regular. Yeah. You don't have to say regular.
But I was like, I knew that you don't have to say regular, but I was just like, I was being like 0.01% humorous. Like, I'll just have a regular Coke. Yeah. My sister said, I'll have a Diet Coke.
And there's confusion. No, it's true. It's like the cultural kind of, it's like you're slightly out of frame or something like that. You're slightly like just out of jive with the way everything else flows when you go back.
Well, I went back a couple years ago, or maybe a year ago, and I went to visit some friends in San Francisco. And San Francisco is not the best place to like judge America by for like reverse culture shock, because it's like the craziest place. And that's like
there's certain cities that you can't really be like a hallmark of like
New York and San Francisco. But San Francisco has like I think it's largely accepted that it has the highest crazies per capita.
I don't know. No, I've thought long and hard about this. Does New York or Tokyo have more crazy people per capita?
I mean in America, but I think I think in America, San Francisco
has most.
But New York is a close second, I would say.
That's tough. I mean, I love both cities. They're both great places.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons.
That's one of the reasons they're great, because they're centers for artists, musicians. Yeah. So when I say crazy people, I don't mean like just the people with tinfoil on their heads. I mean, like
well, here's the thing:
a wide variety of crazy.
New York has lots of like actually crazy people. Like people who are schizophrenic and insane and walking down the street like yelling. And San Francisco has that, but they also have that kind of California like
weird crazy.
Yeah,
like crazy weird thing.
But at any rate, so I was in San Francisco, and I was like the whole trip that I was there. I was only there for like three days or so. I was so amazed at the way everyone was like talking to everyone on the streets.
Yeah.
You know, and then like my last day, I was going back to the airport to fly back down to LA, and I was on the train on the BART, and there was like this like Chinese American girl. She was like 19, and she was sitting next to this like middle-aged. He looked like he was like Persian guy, like he was wearing like a turtleneck and he had curly gray hair. And she asked him a question about what was the right stop for her to get off for where she was going or whatever. And he told her, and then they just started talking.
Yeah.
And they were talking and talking and talking. I was so like enthralled by watching this oddest of couples. She was like that kind of like Chinese American where she had that weird like Asian American accent. You know? She was like really like Chinese American, you know, like I can't really do it.
That's what you mean.
And
yeah, you're right. No, it is.
and then this like Persian middle-aged man, and they were just like chatting like best friends. And he was like, "Actually, I'm getting off the same stop as you, and I can show you where you need to go." So they get to their stop, they walk off together, and I was like,
And then
"Are
he
they
killed
gonna
her.
have sex?" It's like, "They're gonna have sex." How
He
did that
killed her
happen?
with a knife.
But then like, so I was like, "Wow, America's so amazing this way." And then
Yeah, no, it's an amazing thing, but it's completely lacking here.
so then I went to
Except
like,
in the countryside, there is more of that. But
guess
then,
so.
but then it's more nosiness, not just like banter.
yeah. I mean, it's like a double-edged sword basically.
Yeah.
But so then after I saw that, witnessed that event, I was thinking this whole trip about like how Americans just talk to each other and like why has this become such a like uncomfortable thing for me. I mean, it's not uncomfortable. It's like great. I love it, but like I feel like a little bit tense when I have to.
Yeah.
So I was on the shuttle from the train station to the airport. This was right after I saw the Persian guy pick up the Chinese American college student, and like this like hot kind of punky chick gets on the bus, the shuttle bus, and you have to pay for the shuttle bus, but you need exact change.
Oh, yeah.
And all she had was like a 20.
Yeah.
And the bus driver was like, "You need exact change." And she was just like, she goes, "Fuck!" And then she just looks around, she's like, "Does anyone have change?" And then this black guy was like, "Yeah, I got you, babe." And then he gives her the change, and she starts to reach into her wallet to like, and he's like, "No, I got you, baby."
That's awesome.
And I was
That's
like,
awesome.
I love this country.
That's it. That's the America I love. That's one of my favorite things about the U.S.
And then she came and she sat down next to me.
But then on the opposite side of that,
Yeah.
I went back to the U.S. and I was with the girl I was dating, and so have you ever gone back to the States with a local? That's scary because then you feel like you have to like you're like a tour guide. It's kind of like when your parents come here.
Yeah.
You're under like all this pressure to like know where shit is and everything runs smoothly. But I was staying at like my dad's cousin's place in Jersey, and I had to get a bus into New York City from northern Jersey to New York. And I've never ridden a bus in Jersey in my life,
Yeah.
much less in northern Jersey. Anyway, my aunt drops us off at the bus stop, which is this glass and metal like overhang with no markings whatsoever on it of any kind at all
Yeah.
that would indicate that
Yeah.
buses stop at this location.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the bus pulls up, and I get onto the bus, and I'm looking around for like a price sign or something, and I'm just like, I have no idea
Yeah.
how much this costs, if
Yeah.
it's exact change, if this is the bus to New York City.
Exactly, yeah.
I
There's
just-
no
and I just-
information
like,
posted anywhere.
And I just go to the driver, like, I'm trying to go to New York City. Is this the right bus? It's like, yeah. It's like,
Yeah. They're like, they give you attitude for asking when
And-
you don't have any
And he gives you like
information
this
posted anywhere.
huge, like this huge, like, what did you just get out of the asylum today, pal? Are you insane? Of course. I just realized that, like, like that level of local, like in the U.S., is so local.
Yeah.
That like it's like the bus schedule is a secret.
But the thing is, even in
It's
like
like-
you go to like the airports in New York City, like
Yeah.
they don't have like things clearly posted,
Yeah.
like where you know exactly where to go. There's n-
Apparently not, because people keep going in the wrong places all the time lately.
But like if you go to the airport or anywhere in Japan, there's like information booths every. Like if you turn around and look, you'll be able to see one from no matter where you are, like in a major train station or airport. But like when I went home last summer, I went through via Honolulu. And I had about 4 hours in Honolulu in the airport, so I decided I was going to try and catch a bus into town and go to the beach.
Nice.
So I got out of, and then here's the thing, I was taking this trip from Tokyo to Honolulu to LA, and my girlfriend was going to be coming a week later on the same trip, Tokyo, Honolulu, LA, but she doesn't speak any English, so I was like, it was kind of like, I was the test run to see like...
if it's possible, yeah.
And so when I got to Honolulu, I was like, there was no information posted anywhere about how to get from where I got off the plane to how to get to my plane to LA or where to wait. So I just like wandered around, just like asking random people. And I was like,
What you can do, I think that's why there's no information posted. Because you just ask somebody.
Yeah,
but sometimes I never ask people.
Yeah.
Because you'd be a crazy person if you asked a stranger a question.
I'm like, where? And they're like, oh, I think it's over there. And so finally I go to like where I think this bus stop goes into Honolulu, and there's like a couple of Germans waiting. And I was like, is this the bus for Honolulu? And they're like, yeah, we think so. So wait for a while, the bus shows up, and then I get on the bus, and the lady who's driving the bus is like, where are you going? And I was like, Waikiki. And she's like, where in Waikiki? And I was like, I don't know, I just want to go to Waikiki. And she's like, I need to know, what you're saying does not help me at all. I need to know where in Waikiki. I was like, well, like somewhere central? She's like, you're not helping me at all. And I was like, can you just take me somewhere? So she's like, get on.
It's kind of like when the first few years I was here, I never rode taxis. Now I've ridden them more. And the first time I talked to a taxi driver, I didn't know how to speak taxiese.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, can you just take me to Okubo Station or something like that? He's like, I'm not a train. It's like, at some level, they're a little bit irritated if you go by train station names.
Well, it depends, I think.
It depends on what, but like, if you give them like a non-chome or something like that, because they can't put into the, little car navigator thing.
If it's a known train station, it should be fine. Like, everyone knows.
Yeah, I've had flat out people just tell taxi drivers, if you don't have the address, I can't speak to them. But it's just like, you have to have like a real local knowledge of like some places in the States. Otherwise, I don't see how a foreigner could ever navigate their way around there.
Yeah, even like New York City, the subway system is so hard to understand.
It's so obtuse. It's insane. Well, granted, it also is over 100 years old.
I mean,
give it some credit.
It's a great subway too. It's like,
give it some credit for its age and whatnot. But I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of.
It's not the most such a huge area, and it has so many stops, and it's like fast and cheap.
It's relatively cheap. Yeah,
relatively cheap. Although, what is it?
Someone asked me about Japanese, getting confused. Yeah, the worst is like when my parents are visiting, and I have to spend like a week with them. I'm with them like the whole time, and I'm constantly going back and forth between Japanese and English. And invariably, at some point, I'll turn to my mother or father and say something to them in Japanese, and they'll be like, "You're speaking Japanese?" They're like, "Oh," and then I'll say it in English. But I generally only get confused in the context of having trying to there's a group of people, and I'm trying to fill my parents in on what people are saying, and then I have to ask a follow-up question, and then I go back and I give the answer in Japanese, to the person. So that sometimes, when I'm in translation situations like that.
I would say I don't usually get confused. I feel like I have like a very distinct switch in my brain to switch between Japanese and English. But when I'm trying to speak a third language, that's when the Japanese comes out. Like if I don't know, like when I'm at home and I'm speaking to my grandma, she speaks English, but she also speaks our Indian language. And whenever I try to speak that, it always comes out in Japanese.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's hard to do other languages too. And often I forget a word I want to say in English, but I can immediately think of the Japanese word for it.
Yeah, you just did it earlier when you're talking about putting the soy sauce on.
You're
like kakeru.
Yeah, kakeru. But for some reason, put on doesn't seem right, but kakeru seems more right.
Our Indian languages, because there's hundreds of languages in India, but you wouldn't have heard of ours, so I just call it our Indian language.
It's an interesting thing. I read this article about India versus China, that apparently, like, when Indians,
It's called Canada. K-A-N-N-A-D-A. Canada.
when Chinese leave China, they go off somewhere in the world, they open up like a restaurant, something like that, and then they send shit tons of money back to China, to families, and invest in like businesses and Chinese businesses. They invest in like neighboring Chinese firms, stuff like that. There's two things. But Indian people apparently, as soon as they get out,
see you,
we're gone.
Yeah.
We're gone. You guys have fun with the Bapole thing. I'll let you go to Christmas.
It's a really big problem, actually.
Peace.
It's called a brain drain.
Yeah.
Indians are hugely successful everywhere except for India.
I just thought it was interesting. I wonder what that is. Like some cultures, it's like once they're out, you know, like as immigrants. And the Irish are the worst in America. It's like third generation
I
Irish
hate the Irish.
are trying to like get back in. It's like I have cousins who it's like every piece of clothing they have has got like a Guinness thing or an Irish flag on it, and they're like always talking about, yeah, well in Ireland. I'm like, dude, you're an American, deal with it.
Yeah.
Like our family hasn't been in Ireland for generations.
Yeah, I noticed like one thing like Irish people. That's a link to Canada, our language, our Indian language. It's especially bad in Japan because it's pronounced exactly the same as Canada.
Yeah.
In Japanese, both are Canada, so it takes always a while to explain it to.
Now, here's a question I've got. I think we're going to go in a little bit. It's getting kind of late there. We got a little work to do. But and if I'm sure you have something to do.
Oh yeah, of course.
What's the head thing?
Technically, supposed to still be at work now. It's not away.
What's the head thing? What's this? What is that genetic? Is it?
No.
I don't see you do it. You don't do it.
Well, because I'm American.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what's with that?
It's just a cultural gesture. It's like
It's weird. It creeps me out. It's weird.
Yeah, but you know how like if you do this, it means yes.
I don't.
You never nod yes.
I think it's different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, this is no.
Whatever, bro.
But Indians do this. It means yes, and it means good, and it means okay.
It's very Alzheimer's-y to me.
It's goofy. Indians are goofy.
It's goofy. Yeah,
people.
it's goofy. Yeah, that's a good word for it. It's hard to take someone seriously when they're doing that.
Yeah.
Like that Spring has that joke about that.
Yeah. I do it though. I do it like kind of like when I'm at home with my family. I do it.
Yeah.
Like if you like eat some food and you like it, it's good. Then you go like, So I do that with like it's a joke. I do it with my girlfriend. I do it all the time.
But it's pure defending the Irish. But like I'm like half Irish. But the thing is, it's just like
I love.
But
Irish
I get tired. I get tired because actually living in a foreign country, in the way we do, you kind of get tired of the way people cling on to like this. I now view being Irish very differently than I did before I lived in Japan. So I think when I was before I went to Japan, I was I'm an Irish American.
That's Irish Americans always say that, and then people from the UK or Ireland are like,
it's like I lived in the UK for a year, and actually that was the first time I heard it. People were like, "Dude, you're not Irish American. You're an American. Just accept it." And it's right. It's true. It is. Japanese people like Indians.
Japanese people generally, the impression, the general impression is that Indians are smart and hardworking.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I get from Japanese people.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a overly positive or negative. I'd say generally positive opinion about Indian people.
Yeah, I would too.
But not they don't have extreme opinions about Indian people.
No, yeah, I think it's a generally positive one though.
Yeah. They're getting, the Indian population in Tokyo is growing every year because of the IT stuff.
More.
What about Mexicans?
Someone always asks about Mexicans.
I don't really know. There's not that many Mexicans in Japan. Very, very, very few.
Yeah, I've not met.
So
I don't think I know any. I know.
It's like saying, what do they think of Croatians? They don't really have any.
I know a Colombian guy. I know a Croatian.
I know at least one of almost everything, but
Yeah, it's true.
I know some.
That's one. Actually, that's one of the greatest benefits of living in this country is like the internationality of my circle of friends now is bizarre to say the least.
Yeah. Although when I lived in New York, I knew more people from more countries.
And then actually, this is I remember I was at this. I did a comedy gig for this guy's book launch at the Cerulean Tower in Chihuahua years ago. Before we met, I think. And I was at the bar, and there was this really cute, like little blonde chick there. And I looked over and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you." And we were chatting, and she's like, "Yes, my name is Alfia. I'm from what was it? Uzbekistan."
Why were you doing the Indian?
I don't know. And so I was talking, and then like, okay, I gotta go. I'll talk to you later. And then like I walked back over, like later on, to like, hey, maybe you call sometime. We can go get dinner. You can tell me more about the Ukraine. And she stops me and she's like, well, I guess I could tell you about the Ukraine.
I know more about the Ukraine than you do, but
I think you might want to find a Ukrainian for that because you see, I'm from Uzbekistan, which is a totally different country. And I was like,
both yous, get over it.
Like, yeah, I am the walking stereotype.
Yeah, the American.
Being an American.
Yeah.
We actually went on to become friends, actually.
Oh yeah.
Just friends.
Do you still?
I still blame the Ukraine thing. I think if I hadn't said that,
No, but you should still do that like every now and then, so like have you been back to Ukraine?
Actually, if I kept doing it, maybe it would have frustrated her into liking me.
Don't put the in front of Ukraine. The Ukraine, really?
Really?
Ukraina.
Should you just be Ukraine? All right. I don't know.
Why is that? Why do we think it's the Ukraine?
There's a lot of English is a fucked up language. Like for example, bodies of water are all different. Like
she's still dropping.
Oceans all have the, but lakes don't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no sense to it. Rivers do, but lakes don't.
Yeah.
Oceans do. Yeah. So there's so many weird ass things like that in English language. You find out when you teach.
Yeah. It should be just Ukraine. The Republic of Ukraine. Ukrainska Republika. Maybe.
Yeah. And the other thing is like I've noticed that like in the U.S. in English we don't call any country by their actual name, like whereas the Japanese do. Like in the Japanese language, basically their name for the country is a phonetic representation of how they say the name of their country. But in English,
it comes from Chinese actually.
It doesn't?
Yeah, because like the Chinese reading of the characters for Japan is Rupen. But like there's some dialect in the, whenever Whiteys went to China.
Oh, really?
And they heard it like Japanic, kind of.
So it came through the Chinese.
Yeah.
It's like sort of as Germany.
Germany is different in every language.
Yeah.
It's like weird.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's like the Japanese call them Deutsch.
Yeah.
Which is pretty close.
Close, yeah.
Guessing.
But in like French, it's Allemand.
Oh, really?
And in Czech, it's Rakos. No, that's Austria. It's Niemiecko. And in German, it's Deutsch. And it's like different in every language. It's weird.
But basically, in Japanese, it's just whatever the country's name is, and then phonetically, it's said. It's weird.
Yeah, I always think it's funny, like with the way like in English, actually. Now we say Beijing for the capital of China. But when I was a little kid, it used to be called Peking. Right?
Same. I get it. I'm sorry. I read the newspaper. I'm a very knowledgeable guy, but I still don't know whether I'm supposed to say Myanmar or Burma, Sri Lanka, or fucking Ceylon. I never know what I'm supposed to call these countries anymore.
Ceylon's the old one. Sri Lanka's the new one. Burma's the old one. Myanmar's the new one.
But are we supposed to say Myanmar? Because like we don't like
No, it's
Depending on who you ask.
officially.
Some people say it's preferable to call it by the old name.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I just call
depending
it
on the
Myanmar.
ruling government. I need flashcards. That's what. Except I need flashcards for this.
But I call someone from Myanmar Burmese. There's no like Myanmar. It's Burmese. Like someone from Myanmar is Burmese. Anyway, so like Beijing, right? It's northern capital.
Yeah, and
It's northern capital.
what's the adjectival form of New Zealand?
Kiwi.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like that's real one.
You can say New Zealander too.
New Zealander, but like a thing from New Zealand. It's
Yeah, Kiwi.
Kiwi, yeah.
But so like Beijing, I always thought it was funny how like for like hundreds of years we called it Peking, and I just always imagined when like the British first went to China, this was the interaction. Like, hey, I say, this is a rather lovely city you have here. What do you call it, my good man? Beijing. Peking. Did you say Peking? I'm sorry. Could you repeat that one more time? Beijing. Peking. Yes, Peking. We shall call this city Peking. I just don't get how they went from Beijing to Peking.
Exactly. Like, I mean, it's just, the guy had like syphilis of the year at that point. Or scurvy had rotted his head so many years in the boat. Who knows?
It's like, what do you? No offense to British people, but sometimes when I hear English people speaking other languages,
Do you ever hear?
it's like the English accent comes through so strongly.
Did you ever hear? Do you ever hear Mark Butler?
No.
Oh, then you guys just missed because he was here. He was a British comedian who was here for about a year. He's great, and now I think he's in Australia doing the comedy circuit there. But he had this whole bit. I don't really remember because this is like 5 years ago. He had this whole thing about it's like basically we just went with boats from like island to island with guns, and like you will be called this now. Yes. Do you understand that? Yes. Yes, sir. It's like that's how the English travel was. Go from country to country. Is like we don't care whatever language it was you were speaking up until this point, or what it was you called yourselves, or what it was. From now on, you will enjoy this drink. You will wear these clothings, regardless of your climate. You will just the whole make the world England thing. It's hilarious. Yeah, he was a funny dude. All right.
Kevin, do you respect X-rated racist comedy?
Like comedy where like there's a comedian on stage and then two people have sex behind him. I don't know. So I always get hate mail, and I once got I often get a comment that because I curse, I'm a shitty comedian. And I've seen that written so many times, like, oh yeah, he's into cursing. Cursing means he's a shitty comedian.
Stupid.
First of all, I'm a mediocre comedian. I'm not fucking Chris Rock.
At best.
Yeah, and I'm not as bad as a lot of the guys who are actually working in the States right now. So yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle of the herd there. But I don't think there's any connection to the amount of language used in comedy and its quality.
It's really
There
just
should
how
be
you
zero
use.
is how you use it, yeah. And I can give so many examples, like Billy Connolly has one of the most foul uses of vocabulary.
Yeah, George Carlin, Richard Pryor.
Yeah, but Connolly doesn't use to make a grander point about humanity.
It's just how it talks.
Oh yeah, it's just how he talks. Carlin is making a specific point about language sometimes when using that language. In the 730 words example. But it's such an idiotic thing, and so it's like to criticize a comedian, automatically by using foul language, they're not a comedian, or that's not humor.
It's stupid.
That's
Very
stupid. And I don't think even Bill Cosby would agree with that.
Yeah, basically the problem with using bad language in comedy arises from when you just use it to get a cheap laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're using it because comedians, we choose their words very carefully and we like words.
Yeah.
And it's part of the color of the language, and profanity is the same as any other kind of word. We use it to give a certain kind of color to what we're saying.
But the most thing is and I learned.
But it's sometimes you see amateur comedians,
Overusing
not that
it.
we're not amateur.
No, we're amateur.
Amateur comedians just being like, yeah, fuck you, and I was fucking doing this, and like I was like, what the fuck, man, that was fucking lame, and you're like, that's stupid.
And I personally, I don't think anything I have up on YouTube doesn't do that.
No, I don't think you'd have anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just like as a hate mail complaint, it's one that I don't give any credit to.
Yeah.
You know. You know. His best comedic skill. This is come out recently. Is your voices and accents. You've done some pretty good. The accents you did in that were good actually.
That's like my favorite thing.
Really?
I mean, it's like
Because you didn't do that last year.
I mean, I always did a little bit.
Yeah,
but
like the Japanese kid voice and the dad voice, you did that.
yeah, and like you know, I've always had a couple accents, but like, you know, that's my favorite thing to do. But like, I can never like I will only do it if I can think of like a reason to do it instead of just doing it. Like I need a joke or a bit to hang it on. You know? But yeah, I love doing accents and voices. I personally think I can do thousands. Someone's asking how many can you do, but I'll let other people judge me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do them now, though. Sorry.
That's the other thing. It's like that. Like I mean, I'm guessing there are some comedians out there that are 100% completely confident. But almost every comedian I've ever met, like professional or otherwise, is incredibly insecure.
Yeah.
And so, like, the great irony of having people say you suck is like no one believes it more than the comedians themselves. You know,
It's funny.
Like,
Sometimes
it's so redundant. You know, that's why I think like hecklers to some extent never bother me, nor do they any comedians, because like and this is like come from having met probably hundreds of comedians at this point. Like just the intense self mutilation that we do to ourselves anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's like heckling or bad criticism has very little effect. You know?
Yeah.
If it does, then you're not a comedian. You know?
But yeah, I noticed like even with like the super duper successful comedians or other entertainers, a lot of times they're like even like now they're like the number one in the world, and they're still constantly like second guessing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it doesn't matter how many people laugh. You're always still wondering, yeah, but is it really funny?
Like Woody Allen will often say, like, I want to make like a good film someday.
Yeah, exactly. I think anyone I've ever talked to who does comedy says this. Like for me, it was like if I could get up on stage and just do a couple minutes, then I'd be a comedian. And I did that, and it's like, oh well, that didn't really count. You know, if I got a good reaction, then did that. If I got paid for it, okay. If I got paid money for it, if I paid in front of like more than a couple hundred people, and every step that has gone up, I've been equally satisfied with my level of quality.
Yeah.
It's endless. It's probably the same way like for Donald Trump and money.
Yeah.
It's I think it's the same for comedians and being funny, that you're never funny enough.
You're never satisfied.
Yeah.
I think it's true.
Yeah.
But so I guess it's a good thing that I'm on the absolute bottom of that process.
Exactly. But you always will be, It's like, do you see the documentary Comedian with Seinfeld?
Yeah.
There's this great bit in there where Seinfeld like throws out all of his old material, and the documentary follows him building a new hour-long comedy set. It takes him about a year, which is the average for a professional working comedian. To do an hour-long comedy set takes him about a year of work. And he says to Colin Quinn in the bar, he's like, when am I gonna feel, like I'm back, like I'm me again? And he's like, when you look around the room and you say, so these fucking idiots are laughing. I think that's kind of what he meant. Like, that like it's not enough. It's not it's not satisfying.
There's kind of like this horrible self-hating thing that happens sometimes where like I have a joke that I guess I feel conflicted about. In some ways I think it's funny, in other ways I think it's retarded.
Yeah.
And then like I do it and people laugh at it, and that's all I wanted to happen, but they laugh like, you're laughing at that?
Exactly.
It's so lame.
That bit it's a women's only car. Like that one's always weird for me psychologically, because I did stuff about the Lindsay Hawker thing, that was tough. But like, you kind of want to do it to see if you can make it work. You know.
Well, you had a funny bit with that, just about like
I just didn't. Yeah, I fucked it up.
blowjobs.
Yeah. Anyway. Sorry, we've left to our own devices. We start talking about comedy. All right, I'm going to set a cutoff. 3:45. 3:45.
Okay.
So you got 10 minutes. Any last?
Can I pee?
Questions? Go for it.
I'm gonna pee. I'll be right back. Where's the toilet?
Down there, straight ahead. Thank you. Extra special thanks to all of the deputies who were dealing with that douchebag. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. Hope it wasn't too irritating to the viewers watching. And yeah, it's the internet. What can you do? Sure. 360 view. So, Windows, me, cafe, bar. Yeah, clap for the mods. Seriously, thank you guys. No, seriously, we're the only people in this cafe under 60. I've not seen anyone under 60 in this place today. Right now I'm on a Mac. I'm on a MacBook. I have a PC, but the camera on this one seems to be better, but it's heavier. And the PC has a longer battery life, so if I'm going to just be sitting in a cafe, I use the Mac. Any Tokyo Eye episodes coming up? No, not a fan. I'm working with them on another project right now, so I don't know. I haven't got a call from them yet. Creamy sausage. Given the conversation we just had, I don't know. I do stand-up comedy. I'm pretty successful at it here, but like you were just talking about it. God, you're never satisfied with it. Never satisfied. No, I do not do stand-up. It's impossible to do in this context. But there's some on my YouTube account. If you go look there, if you actually want to see some of it, I've got 1 or 2 things up. Actually, I was going to talk about the comedy thing. You know there's some dude who's like edited together footage. Somebody took of me at one of the shows at the Baron with footage of us on that morning show. I don't know if you were here then. We were on the Japanese morning. At the Fiddler on the morning show. And he's written in like broke dick English this whole rant about how I'm racist because I'm making fun of Japanese. And it's just like, what? Why would it be on a morning show if it was Japanese? Then he has my material, which again, it's mostly Japan focused, but it's just like, seriously, it's very different.
That was a hilarious moment when that was on. And
that Layla video, the racism video, that's still every day.
It's so ridiculous.
The comments are for me have been so rewarding because every day there's a comment that I don't think this is real, or he's staring at you because you're wearing a Pikachu suit, not because you're black. It's just like, really?
But even with the Ken women on the car, it's real.
That one's not as much. Not as much that one. But the racism one is shocking. Oh yeah, I watched the Anthony Bourdain Hudson River episode last night. I don't know, I just want to throw that out there, but it was weird to me. I haven't seen the other episodes in this new season, but they've taken a strange turn in the production of the show that I now feel like it's more scripted than it ever was. It's becoming something different, and I liked when it was less scripted. And I know he's got a kid and a wife now, but fuck that. Go back the hell out to Tibet or somewhere interesting. I don't want to see the Hudson River.
No.
I mean, it's interesting to an extent, but like this season, last season, he's done like L.A., Portland, Vancouver, like a lot of like North American places.
Yeah, it's more fun when he goes to exotic places. But.
Exactly. But like the last show, I haven't seen. I got to watch the first episodes of the season. It was heavily like produced. Like things were there's a scene where the Culinary Institute of America selling merch from his car, selling merch from his car, and it was just like the scene was so clearly produced. I was like, I don't get the point of this. Like, what is this now? It wasn't funny.
Like
it was meant to be funny, I think, but it was just weird. It's like it's trying to become something that it's not. Anyway, I'm probably lost a lot of you with that conversation right there. But, I just noticed that. I wanted to mention it. But I do love Bourdain so much still. So he could do anything. He could murder kittens on his show. I love his show. Who's your biggest influence?
Influence?
Yeah.
Ugh. I have no idea.
We always refer to him as the Japanese Woody Allen.
I love Woody Allen, but who doesn't?
The MCs, every MC, because every MC says whatever Michael Neistat used to say.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy Michael, he's been on the show and he's in a lot of my videos. He used to MC our shows, but he's in LA now. And for 3-4 years, well, for me, 5 or 6 years, they always said the same thing. This Kevin from a shitty little town,
right?
Which is right outside the shitty little town where I grew up, and for you, it's always the Indian Woody Allen.
Yeah, and also because one night randomly at the Crocodile Show, Neistat introduced me as the Roppongi sex machine.
Yeah.
And that's what Layla says now when she introduces me.
Really?
Yeah. Which is weird. But
Layla's gone actually. Yeah, Layla, the black hula hooper girl who was on this show in its early, whatever it is, has moved on. She's in Australia. She left this week? Last week?
I guess very recently. I don't know exactly.
Black girl with the hula hoop.
The one from the racism video.
Yeah, the one from the racism video. She's in Australia, hula hooping, I believe.
My favorite Woody Allen movie, I don't have one favorite, but I love Annie Hall and Manhattan and Crimes and Misdemeanors and Deconstructing Harry.
My favorite one's a really stupid one. Manhattan Murder Mystery.
I love that movie.
It's a nice movie.
It's such a wonderful dessert.
Exactly. It's like a sorbet of Woody Allen. That's my favorite one of his. Just because I don't have to think that much, and
it's very entertaining. Yeah. And very satisfying.
Yeah.
And sweet. It's got a sweet little story about that.
And Woody Allen does a good Woody Allen in that one.
Okay.
Sometimes he does him better than he does him other times.
Yeah. But my favorite stand-ups, I guess, would be I don't know. I love Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle.
But the Dave Chappelle thing, you had wigged out on his Comedy Central contract.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we were talking about before. He didn't like why people were laughing or how they were laughing.
Right, exactly.
And they were offering huge amounts of money, but he walked away from it because basically he was dealing with issues.
Yeah, it's so annoying to me that people made such a big deal out of that.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Doing something honorable.
The second he did it, I was just like, I can get that.
It's so rare for someone in Hollywood to do something for the right reasons that people were upset by it.
Yeah, exactly.
But he went on to
comedy over.
Oh, people were asking.
Sorry. No, I keep going back to it. Sorry. Yeah. All right. How about this? I'm gonna start record, and until this time runs out, we'll have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to wrap it up here. So when I said 10 minutes, I actually meant from now.
Oh, 10 minutes from now.
10 minutes, and then the video ends. Then we're gone. Okay. We're out of here.
So you guys get an extra 10 minutes.
We're gonna go terrorize the city.
Bastards.
So, questions, huh?
Yeah.
Japan. Favorite Japanese food? Actually, I came before. I wanted to mention that. Mine based on consumption, is soba. I eat the most soba, but based on deliciousness, probably ramen or tonkatsu.
I would say amount would probably be ramen for me.
I eat it once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks a month.
But I love sushi, but I eat it not very often.
Actually, I eat sushi fairly. There's a place on Senegai, a Tachi sushi place. It's like a standing sushi place. It's pretty cheap and pretty good. I go there once a week. It's near NHK. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like udon. I eat udon a lot.
Udon? Yeah, I only like udon if it's like yaki udon, like nabe yaki udon, or
no,
curry,
I like
curry udon.
soup.
Really?
Yeah. I go through phases where like now I like soba and I don't like udon, and then it changes. And I've been on an udon phase for.
I've
like
always
over
been
a
soba.
year.
I have no time for udon. It doesn't taste like anything.
I love okonomiyaki. But I eat it probably
the
a few
okonomiyaki for
times a
me,
year.
I'm really touchy about what is on the okonomiyaki. I hate all the mayonnaise and katsuobushi.
I hate mayonnaise,
Nori
but
flakes and
I
shit
like
like
it
that.
on okonomiyaki for some reason. Normally I don't like mayonnaise. I like Japanese curry. I eat that a lot too.
That's actually, I think probably curry is the #1 most popular food here. If considered home consumption,
I probably eat it like once a week.
like for all Japanese people too. I mean, like considering home consumption and out consumption, that's a big chunk of it, I'm sure.
I probably eat Japanese curry once a week, and I eat Indian curry once a week. So curry like twice a week.
So like curry is like every family in Japan probably has curry at least once a week, I'm guessing. You know, it's such a typical Japanese home food, which is just something you would never think of. You know?
Yeah. Curry ice cream I haven't even heard of, but I would try it if I saw it.
Sunshine City Ice Cream Stadium.
Yeah.
Ice Cream Stadium? Ice Cream City. They've got it. Finding an apartment. Actually, landlords sometimes do say that gaijin smell bad, and that's one of the fears of renting out to them. As an Indian,
I didn't know about the smell thing. I thought it was more like causing trouble or like leaving without paying.
No, I've heard both those two things, and like food odors, garlic and stuff like that. but like you said, American. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it's funny because
they don't ask what race you are; they ask what country you're from.
That's another thing that would be hugely taboo in the West, but not so much here. Is like when I went to go find an apartment in Yokohama, I had a job already with this company called Interac, and so they sent someone who works for their staff to go around with me to find an apartment. And like when you go to the real estate agency, he will say to them, "Okay, looking for an apartment," and he goes like, "It's." He's a foreigner. I love the
voice change. I've heard it as a voice like, oh, and there's just one thing. Is it a problem that he's a foreigner?
And yeah, so ready to move in on July 21st, and he's a foreigner. And and then the real estate agents will call like different landlords, and they'll be like, yes, we have someone looking for a 1-person apartment. He's a foreigner, like they say. Gaikokujin nandesu kedo. He's like a foreigner.
I've even seen
is that gonna be a problem? And sometimes they're like, then they like just hang up the phone and then call someone else, and then you know that the person was like, oh,
my favorite one. I love this transition. I've gone because I've like about 5 different places here now. I get there at the real estate agency. He's like, "Oh yes, okay, we'll find this apartment." And I'm clearly one of the first times he's ever dealt with a foreigner. And he starts working like, yes, the apartment with the 3DKs, yes, and that's still open, yes, and it's available. Okay, cool, great, yeah. And you're asking this much money? Okay, how much is the key money? And they go through all the information, checking it, and then he gets around to, about the customer. He is a foreigner. What? Oh, I see. America. Yes. Okay, thank you. and then he said, oh, sorry, he goes to the next one. But then by the end of it, it's like,
I got an American guy.
I got an American guy looking for an apartment. It's like the first thing that comes out of their mouth because they're like, I can't go through this whole spiel every time.
Please don't hang up. I have an American looking for an apartment.
Yeah. But actually, usually it's and I've heard this conversation over the phone. It's like, where is he from? He's American. Okay.
Yeah, because it's like basically they're worried about like. I guess they have like certain nationalities are less trustworthy. It's weird. And
like, and also like, and after that, the next question is, does he speak Japanese?
Yeah.
Things like that. If you have a Hoshonin, and how your Hoshonin is connected to you, those things could come up.
Yeah, if you have like someone who's guarantor.
like me and I had a roommate back when I worked for an
you're
English
more
company. Me and this Irish dude, and we started looking for apartments for two dudes. And like every real estate company looked at us like we were crazy. It was like no owner is going to rent out an apartment to like two dudes, two foreign dudes to live together. It was just like so outside of there. Like nobody has roommates here really. Like if it's a roommate situation, generally it was like the apartment was bought by some company, and was divided up. Like a family's home was divided up for three people. But like generally speaking, Japanese people don't have rooms in New York.
Although it's getting a little bit more common with
it's getting more common, with young people.
I
in New York,
live
it's
with
so not weird, you know.
I live with roommates, and I found it through this website that's for like searching for room share.
Yeah,
It's a really good website, and it's all like like only one person's name is on the lease, but like 5 people live in the apartment. But it's all like kind of like don't ask, don't tell. Kind of. But it's cool. We don't have to pay any key money. Good rent. Share the bathroom and the kitchen.
nice. All right, 3 minutes left.
Rappity uppity. So do you guys have really close Japanese friends as your social?
Kane.
When I lived in the countryside, I had tons of Japanese friends. And then when I moved to the city, I found it really hard to adjust to like not having that anymore. Whereas like the only people I could meet were other foreigners, and I hated it for the first while. And then I just kind of accepted it. And now I have like a good mix, I guess, but mostly gaijin.
Yeah. Me too. Mostly gaijin.
My roommates are all Japanese. Girlfriend's Japanese. I have Japanese friends, but yeah, I mostly hang out with a mixed group, but heavy on the gaijin.
Yeah, I think that's typical in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Although there are like the hermits who go off to be with the people, and like they avoid other foreigners as much as they can. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with it, but any last advice you'd have for someone who's thinking about coming to Japan? Any words of wisdom to pass on?
Yeah, I said it already, but like just it's best to have the attitude of being accepting of everything and not to be sensitive, not to be overly sensitive. Like, if a female friend wants to grab your boobs, to not get angry about it. Kevin's never had his package grabbed, but I have. It's best not to get angry about it.
Just let it go. Let it slide by.
If they want to give you a blowjob. If a drunk salaryman wants to give you a blowjob, it's best not to get angry about it. I like to just let it happen. I just accept it.
Really? We're gonna end on this? This is your closer?
If you want the words of wisdom.
That's wisdom, I guess. Yeah.
No, I was being serious about the being accepting. I was not being serious about the blowjob.
That probably is the biggest thing. Just the being open to new experiences.
Yeah,
and stuff.
but it's great. Like I would say, probably 19 out of 20 people who come here have a good experience.
Yeah, and actually that 20th person is unsavable. I've found it's not. They could go anywhere. They could they're in heaven. They would be like, oh, this place fucking sucks. But yeah, I think it's just being open, and also especially if you stay here longer term, not getting into a rut too easily, like challenging yourself to do new stuff.
Yeah.
After a while.
That's something that you could say about living anywhere, really.
Yeah. Exactly. Because you get into a comfort zone. So keeping it feeling like it's still your first week. Well, thank you for coming by, chat with us.
It was fun.
It was indeed. Thank you very much for doing it.
Thank you, Internet.
Do you have a blog, website, anything?
Nope.
All right.
I've got nothing to plug.
Vinay Murthy on YouTube. You might find some of his stand-up.
Yeah, there's only 2 videos. That's been there for like 3 years. I haven't updated it. I should put more up.
All right. Video done recorded. I want to write matomeru in English.
Summary.
Summary? Really?
I don't know.
Closing thoughts. All right. Cool. Hey, thank you guys for coming by. I had fun talking. Thank you for the questions. And again, thanks again to the moderators for helping deal with the douchebag. Have fun. and see you all later.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye, world.